Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 13th. It is 6:30, room 27, the Wareham Town Hall. Call the meeting to order. Have a roll call. Tom Worthens.
Here.
Jody.
Here.
David.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
And myself. We have a quorum. Our clerk hasn't indicated that he's going to be absent, so we hope he's coming. Stuart is called and was called out of town unexpectedly, so he is unable to attend. This evening, we're going to be interviewing the petitioners for the last three articles on the warrant that we are responsible for viewing. And the first one is Article 18. Brenda just came in the door. Oh, no. Nope, she's not here yet. So we can go out of order if convenience. Barry, would you like to come up, please?
Right here.
Barry is the presenter of Article 19.
If I don't speak loudly enough, please signal me. Thank you very much for your invitation, and thank you very much for your service to the town. I hope you'll find my presentation will show that our interests are very much aligned. The purpose of this warrant article, or referendum, or nudge, or whatever you want to term it, is an effort to find out if there is revenue owed to the town or not from earth removal activities which are unpermitted. I looked at your budget today, and I think it's about $70 million for 2021. Just to put it in perspective, if 1 million cubic yards has been moved from Wareham without a proper permit, that translates into about $9.5 million in fees and penalties, which is 12% of your budget, which is by itself the same amount your budget's grown since 2017. Here's the background. Like everybody else in town, I've seen tons of trucks going through town with lots of sand, and people are saying, where's the sand coming from, where's it going? Truckers call it Wareham's open secret. They don't call the sites from which they haul by an address, they call it Sand Pit X or Sand Pit Y. And I've read with interest, in particular, your last letter from your chairman about the financial challenges of the town. So it occurred to me that if we've got financial challenges and we have a revenue opportunity, why aren't we pursuing it? So I attended a MIPA meeting in the spring held by Makepeace. And I listened carefully to the presentation, and it seemed like a lot of folks had the same question: where's that sand coming from, where's it going, and where are the fees to the town? And the CEO was struggling to answer them in my judgment, so I tried to help him, and I said, look, why don't you just have an open meeting and explain it to people and get them off your back? He agreed to do that. He reneged. I passed this information on to the selectman's office and to the town administrator with the same goal. Is there a revenue opportunity here or not? I don't know the answer, but shouldn't we try to find out? Nothing. So having seen no action, and what seems to me to be an absence of will on the part of the town to pursue this, I thought a common sense call to action to nudge the Board of Selectmen to, at the very least, look into the issue was a smart thing to do, to raise awareness about the issue and to get some results if, in fact, money is owed. If no money is owed, then so be it. But can the town not afford, or can the town afford not to look into this? We need to explore the basis for the exemptions that some people claim. Without knowing the quantity of sand that's been removed, you can't make any sense of it. For example, if you only need X amount of sand to take care of your bogs, but the data would show that you've taken 10 times that, then you'd have some explaining to do. Where are all those trucks going when they go out of town? Are they going to an industrial sand mixing facility? Are they going to other growers? All those loads are potential money for the town if they're not properly permitted. And I'd ask you to think about this. What about the millions upon millions upon millions of cubic yards of sand that have been taken out of other surrounding towns, including Carver and Plymouth? there too, the same agricultural exemption has been claimed. So if I were running the town, I know I'd get the three towns together and I'd say, what's been permitted, what's been taken, how, if at all, does it add up? If 300 boatloads of fish came into town every day at the dock down at Toby Hospital, and somebody went up to the kid and said, where's your license? And he said, well, I'm eating all the fish myself. I think we'd probably say, come on, prove it. The bylaw in town is very clear. It's different than most bylaws. It explicitly states in section 5 that if sand's been removed, which undoubtedly it has been, and there's no license, the Board of Selectmen shall, not if they get around to it, not if they want to, shall instruct the engineer to do an assessment of how much sand has been taken, convert that to truckloads and see if the town is owed money or not. It is not the typical regulatory procedure where you file with the building inspector to see if there's been a violation. It's an entirely different mechanism in this bylaw. The selectmen have not done it. And this article is an effort to nudge them to do so. If we simply rest with, oh, we can take all the sand we want because we're in agriculture, it ignores the fact that some agricultural operations have multiple business divisions. They've done a smart thing. They've pivoted to other stuff. That's what you do when revenue on one side is down. But that doesn't mean you can use the rights of one division of your business as an exemption for another. And this inquiry has not happened. Why? Why not? Why would not the town, at the very least, exercise its right to find out if it's owed money or not? That's all this warrant article is. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, Jody?
Well, I got a statement more than a question. Just so I did watch your presentation last night, watched all the presentations last night, so I kind of had a lot of questions answered then. But from the time I got this, I have one, thank you, David.
That's yours.
Something very glaring jumped out at me, that you named the company, a business. I'm really troubled by when a warrant article or anything else gets made, to me personal, and this is just my opinion. If it was generic to all the sand removal in town, that type of thing, I understand what you're trying to do, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it,
Yeah.
but I am very troubled by having an individual business named in the article.
Well, let me say two things about that. The first is, I entirely agree with you that all of the sand removal in the town should be monitored, measured, and reported upon to make sure that no one's cheating and the town isn't being deprived of funds. Absolutely agree. I cited 4 locations that I did homework on. Those happen to be associated with that facility, that operator. It doesn't matter. I totally agree with you. The town should do that. I wasn't aware of other locations until recently. As soon as I did this, a ton of people have come up to me and said, what about this, what about that? One person came up to me and told me that there's somebody taking sand from town-owned property.
Absolutely.
And selling it, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So there's nothing personal there. I just reported what I knew at the time and what I could talk about intelligently. Other people now tell me that that's not the only problem in town, and if it's permissible to expand the warrant to make it more clear that it should apply to everyone, I totally agree with you. There was no intent to give some a break and others not a break. I just talk about things I know about.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing any of that, but the position we're in now, as we sit here, we can't change any of this wording. I mean, I'm voting on what I'm reading here,
Should have the name in it.
Any other questions?
but that's just,
Jody's 100% right.
Yeah.
You can't, you're opening yourself up to maybe liability, I don't know if, Mr. Bowen looked at it, but I think naming a name is
Can I explain?
100% wrong.
First, this is actually not an article. This is a referendum. The way it's worded, it's a referendum. It doesn't change it, but I just want you aware of when you specify as an article,
Still,
it's an article for a referendum. It isn't an article that, as we, in the previous petitions or even with the articles within the body of the warrant itself, it has a specific purpose. a specific objective, where this is a referendum, you're asking for an opinion and from town hall floor of what the body thinks, not what the body is going to be doing. But, any other question? Do you have a question? No?
I just think it's, I'm all for it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against it. I'm against having a name in there.
Yeah.
And I just think it opens the town up to all kinds of stuff. And,
But if you had no name and you just had those addresses, how would you answer
Well-
any different?
Well,
I don't even know if you should have
I
addresses.
guess I would have said the same thing, with just the addresses were there. This
Yeah.
should be worded sand removal. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm an attorney of any sort, but it should have been generic language
Yeah,
as far as,
exactly. You want the town to get paid for sand removal and blah, blah, blah.
But let's
You know,
remember one thing, and I understand all the points you're making, but as I mentioned to you, when I went to the public meeting, the chairman of the company said he would do it, at least for one of the sites. He would disclose this information and then decided not to. So it seemed like a logical thing to just follow up on these particular sites.
well, I would agree, yes, but they are part of the entire body. You're missing that, and so I'm gonna ask you, how many permits do we currently have?
For these locations, none.
None, not for these locations. How many does the town have?
To my knowledge, I don't know the exact answer. Somebody said last night a couple, but I submitted, a Freedom of Information request to try to find that answer out. Haven't got the answer yet, the deadline's not up for them to respond. So I don't know the answer, but it's a very small number, my understanding is.
But so you don't have any idea how many are actually paying and how, because that would be the ones we could readily identify, of course. And we could audit them to find out if they're reporting. But do you have any idea how many pits maybe in town that are just generally digging soil or digging sand out?
Well,
Licensed or permitted or not permitted? Do you have any idea?
My understanding is multiple, and that's why I hope that this body and others will support the idea that we should see if there's revenue opportunities for us there.
Well, there's a bylaw. We have a bylaw and it should be enforced.
It should be.
Readily agree with that. However, I think the avenue you're taking to single out a particular entity, obviously AD Makepeace, I would not ask the town, go to the floor town meeting and recommend them to do that. That would make the body or the town itself specifically attacking that individual. If you were a generic, say that is they should begin enforcing the article or the bylaw that we have for earth removal, that would apply across the board, and obviously would generate action on behalf of the selectmen to send the enforcement people out, which would be the inspectional services, to investigate what they know or are aware of removals, and to get them in. I'm not sure if they could be retroactive in what they owe us, but at least from this day forward, they could be required to, and we could take enforcement action to stop their removal until they get a proper permit.
And look, I can suppose that if it didn't mention any company specifically, people could criticize and say, well, could you be more specific? Right, so it's kind of a no-win situation.
Well, no, in this discussion, you could identify, because that's what we want to know, that there is justification.
Well, I don't know any other way to say it, that I totally agree with you, that the town should capture whatever revenue it can from any earth removal activity in the town that's not licensed and should be.
Dominic, do you want to say something?
I do. And I'm not standing up for AD Makepeace, but to single them out, and they do a lot for the town, and to single them out, if they're doing wrong, absolutely tax them. And I have no problem with that. And I'm all for revenue, as Tommy knows. I'll squeeze, a nickel out of a penny. But maybe it's like we should have maybe a particular hire a particular, if there's enough money, I have a particular person to go to all these sites. I mean, if you took a picture of their area or their gravel pit or these areas that you're talking about, you'll know if stuff is missing.
Oh, it's better than that.
You setting up a drone.
I mean.
I'm saying you can use a drone in this day and age.
There are multiple, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. There are multiple tools on the internet that are extraordinarily accurate in terms of before and after topography.
Exactly.
Okay, I mean, it's fast, it's easy, it's inexpensive, that's why I only put $5,000 in there just as a placeholder, because it's not gonna cost near that. You can get at those numbers with precision, and to your point, you could get everybody.
And
with the
that's
before
the
and
point Jody and everyone here is saying. Should go after everyone, not single out that particular person. And especially, like I said, I'm not afraid of anyone, but they're not like a small company or a company that doesn't help the town, or do the town, or pay enough revenue to the town. You know, you're talking about actually someone who I feel is partnered with the town. Not everyone does right or wrong. That maybe they are doing wrong. I don't have the answer. If they are doing wrong, I think that company would go along with everyone and be righted. I mean, it's not like they're a poor company, okay? So singling anyone is wrong. I believe singling them could hurt us more than help us. My opinion only.
Now, Barry, because this is the referendum versus an article, I would discuss with the moderator if she would allow you to amend it. Because it was whether it, by deleting Makepeace and using other language, if it could expand it or would shrink the responsibility or the application, it's up to her. But because it's a referendum versus an article, she may allow it, but I would discuss it with her if you want to change the language. That's a suggestion, because we're all, as it's currently written, I would say the sense that no, we would not recommend it.
So am I hearing you correctly, that you all unanimously, overwhelmingly endorse the idea that we should be pursuing revenue opportunities if somebody is not properly permitted to remove sand?
100%.
Well, Barry, you are talking to the Finance Committee.
And do you also agree then, that if the mechanism in the bylaw that we have, section 5, says that the board of directors shall, not might, not if they get around to it, shall engage the engineer to do this GIS assessment and convert that to truckloads, that that's a smart thing to do?
Agreed.
And that the owners of those pits should have to account for where that sand went? Do you agree with that too?
That's as the bylaw has been written, and that's what they should be
That's what
applied.
they should be.
We're not, no one's exempt.
And further,
Good, Tony.
how can we look back and see what is owed based on non-reporting prior?
Yeah, I don't think we can look back. There's no documentation.
Well, does
You
it matter?
you get satellite photos, you can
Oh,
know
this,
what everything.
looking back is
what's
absolutely
gone
a thing
is-
to do, and
That's
it's
not hard to
also,
do.
the other value here is to bring awareness to the fact that you can't just walk around and wave an exemption, right? If you see a kid running out of a liquor store late at night with a brown bag, and someone says, well, he's got a license to sell liquor. Yeah, he's got a license to sell liquor, but only to some people. So you have to prove it up. The fact that it's licensed and the fact that it happened in the past is not a pass
Agreed.
for cheating. And I'm not saying there is cheating. I'm saying we should do an inquiry to see whether or not there is.
Aren't you just asking this to enforce the bylaw? Isn't that what you're saying?
I'm asking, yes, I think that's right.
That's
Yeah.
all that's happening here.
Well,
The bylaw exists, you don't want to do
Right.
bylaw, you don't want to change, you just say, let's apply it.
Correct.
Let's enforce it.
Correct.
excuse,
And let's go back and find out at how long it has not been enforced.
You've
It's
said it
pretty
better than me.
simple.
You've said it better than me,
Yeah.
thank you.
excuse me, Tom, that's not what it says.
I didn't read it, I don't know.
No, it says very specifically AD Makepeace.
I-
Now, I remember, I can agree with you, generally speaking, if the language was changed as a referendum, yes. I think they should. But
We're looking for nothing.
No, but
We're
we're
just
gonna-
going to the town and saying, you have this bylaw, enforce it.
Indeed.
We don't want anything new.
But that's
Just
not-
Do we?
I know.
I mean,
Now,
I
look,
can-
look, if everybody else is scared off because ADA Makepeace's name is in there,
To whom?
well, then, you know, then maybe the moderator will agree to take it off, because by no means, particularly what I heard last night, watch the video, you said you watched it. One of the selectmen said they've known this is going on for 15 years, and said that there was this particular site off of some road, I can't remember what it was. But again, I don't know about those things, so at this time, I didn't know about these other things, so I couldn't put in a bylaw, so I don't know anything about. I had some familiarity with these. Listen, these are 50-acre sites. where the topography has come down anywhere between 2 and 15 feet, 2 and 11 feet, excuse me. 50 acres times 2 to 11 feet, that is a massive amount of sand. Massive. And there are very objective criteria that are available to show what you really need to maintain, construct, or refurbish a bog, which is all that the bylaw permits to be eligible for the requirement. And the bylaw has other components that have to be met to be eligible. So it's a very easy exercise. You have a numerator, you have a denominator, it starts with GIS, and it could be big money for you. Maybe
Okay,
it's not.
There
Maybe it's
there
not.
is a methodology for accomplishing what your intent is. Unfortunately, when we vote, we have to vote what is printed before us, and it's a specific individual. So there'll be probably, I can't approve it the way it is because of that. Understand, only because of that. Now,
Right, excuse me. Can it be changed before town meeting floor?
I asked Barry, I advised him to consult with Claire to see if she'll allow a change. Typically, she won't if it expands the article, and it's her interpretation whether it
It's
does
not
or
an
not.
article, you said it's a rep.
Well, the language,
Okay.
the referendum, yes.
So, as it stands right now, it's gonna go in front of the town now.
Oh, they all
Yes.
will, of course.
So that language is going in front of the town.
Now, well,
See what I'm
no,
trying to
I
say?
can't say that because either the attorney
Can it be
or
kicked out right
Gail or Claire may say no, because it's so specific.
That's what I wanna know.
Yeah.
It can be stopped right now.
Yes, it can. I would say it
I'm not sure
can.
it can be changed.
No, that's why I advised the consult with Claire.
All right.
It's in the best interests of the town to maintain a good relationship with the,
I'm sorry, I agree 100% with you.
and so we
They
just
pay
should,
more in taxes than anyone
we
in
just
town.
should, well, I mean, whether they did or whether they didn't, you
Yeah.
don't wanna.
But that does not give them a license to,
Confrontation with
that
someone.
does not give them a license to rob.
But
Correct.
irrespective of who it may be, the fact that there is name specified, that is what I feel is disqualifying it. That's why I suggest, if you can have it amended, because it's going to the floor anyway, assuming Claire allows it. But if she also allows you to amend it, then I think it's a whole different issue.
Thank you.
For it, yeah.
Thank you for your input and your support.
Thanks.
Can I just add on that a little bit?
Sure.
And then when you do talk to the moderator, certainly want to speak for the moderator, I would have some handouts there. Whatever the language you may be changing it to, have something people can hold on to. I mean, people like to read things sometimes.
Yeah, if she's going to allow you to do
Is
an
she gonna allow
amendment,
you?
rewrite
I mean,
it.
she may suggest that, I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna speak for the moderator, but, you know, there's a table there, people can pick up things and, you know, I'm not saying you gotta stand out there and try to sell it to anybody, but people do like to see it if the amendment comes to the floor. You know, I find it awkward sometimes when the amendment comes to the floor and I'm trying to figure out what the heck they're,
What they actually
what they're
said.
It
amending.
says, yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's watching from England. That's where she is. No, I know that. Yeah, wait a minute.
No, Wareham. Wareham, England.
Where in England? I did talk to her on the phone though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Please help me.
Yes.
If this goes through, up, down, whatever, the real issue is enforcement of an existing
Bylaw.
bylaw. So this is all an exercise.
Yes, but
You
this
can
doesn't
say-
do
You
that.
can say enforcement,
Huh?
it's more to it than just enforcement. Let's make some money.
I understand that, but in
Alan likes that.
enforcement,
It's all I'm into,
you're
money.
gonna make money, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so we got what we need, we just need to apply it. Is it?
Yes.
I think that's right, and it's unfortunate that we have to kind of nudge, you know, our board to act when they've got a provision that's right there, section 5, right there.
Yeah.
You shall engage the engineer, you
Well,
shall.
Sometimes
The issue is then to
takes more
get
than a
before
nudge.
the selectmen
Well,
and say.
But unfortunately,
Well,
Barry,
I'm not the board
if
of
you can,
selectmen, I'm not here.
yeah, if you can change that language, I think you'll have your intent.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your invitation.
Have a good night.
Thank you very
Good night.
much.
I think
Thank you.
Alan had a comment.
Alan, yes.
I don't know if Jim wants to speak on the select meetings. We have, just so everybody understands, we already have through Jim, we've gone through a bunch of different areas. I'm not gonna speak about it, but we have a lawsuit against one group of people that have taken a whole bunch of soil up, never paid. And when someone says we won't pick on Makepeace, not the case, because we're looking at that as well. So we're working now, we haven't before, so I won't disagree, but we are now through Selectman Denise, have done a lot of work, and we are going after different places through GIS, through topical maps, et cetera, to figure out how much soil's gone. And we're going after the companies to show what's going on with it. So the comment is that, yes, they haven't done it before. I know for myself, I've never not gone after anybody because they're a huge contributor to the town tax-wise or anything else. I just, you know, to me, everybody's the same. But the bottom line is, with Mr. Denise's work, we are doing it.
So there is action going on.
I'm not saying not go after AD Macy. I'm against singling them out, that's what I'm
Yeah,
against.
that's the problem, because
Yeah.
you could, if you listen
I'm not
to
saying
town,
not go
if you
against
listen to town council last night, he had issues with some of the pieces in there, and that's one of the issues when you single them out.
Okay.
And also, if you read the article, it says may is something, you know, ask for audits, et cetera. It is kind of a referendum, but the language should be changed. But again, I want to give Mr. Denise a chance
You wanna talk,
to
Julie?
speak if you'd like to,
Jim,
because he's done a lot of work.
Well,
update us on what you're doing on your spare time?
well,
He
you
and I
know,
lots of
it's,
spare time.
and somebody we can't really discuss a lot, but we have taken court action against one, and I try to keep my eyes on that. And some activity's still occurring, even though we've taken some court action. And you can't apply it to one and not apply it to another. And sometimes it's a larger hill to climb in order to meet the same end. When you're dealing with people of a lot of means and multiple attorneys. And you also have to get a majority of the board to take action. So you can look at it, you can identify things, you can estimate the yardage, but unless you have a majority of the board to vote to take action, to at least to pursue it, to see if it's feasible, it's just lip service then, right?
Well, hopefully,
We got trying, and we're trying to be fair about it, but a lot of things you just, once you start a court action, you can't discuss it.
all right,
I agree.
Dominic?
Did the board, excuse me, did the board vote on that? Yes or no?
401, no.
Yes.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry, 401,
4.
no, not two.
Well, excuse me.
Not to.
Oh, not to,
Not
okay.
to- It's been corrected. It's 140,
Yes, 140.
as you're familiar with.
Thank you, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Because it gets confusing, because they changed the, instead of saying.
No, that's-
in
you
favor,
answered my
they
question,
say
though.
not in favor, and it gets confusing.
You answered my
Yeah.
question.
I still don't like the way it goes, but that's just my own opinion.
But I think in our explanation, with the information, we can say that it is being pursued as best at this point, but now if Claire is able to change it, by the vote of the floor, then that may motivate the selectmen
Agreed.
further.
James, isn't the issue a regional issue? Why aren't we looking at that as, along with Carver, and Middleborough,
You know, there's,
and Rochester, and I assume Marion even? But
No,
this is
I-
a regional issue, let's do it on a regional basis, let's not just, let's get at it.
and there's groups that are bringing that to light. And you're correct, maybe we should meet with the other towns. And some of them have a little more, are dealing with a little bit better. You might be collecting some nickels and than Wareham is. So the towns are kind of funny, you know, if how it works for them, they don't want to upset the cart. But I agree with what you're saying. There's nothing that there's no harm in reaching out and saying, would you be interested in sitting down and talking about this?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And the next item on the agenda, Article 19. That
I
would be
have
our
one
Zoom-
more question on 18.
Okay,
There are not that many people who signed on this. If 14 signatures on 18.
I think you only need 10 to do it.
We only need 10, we stopped when we got double that.
All right,
That's no measure whatsoever of interest. You needed 10, we doubled it, that was enough.
you submitted it. Is there any way to modify it before town meeting?
That was my question, yeah.
No, it has to be done on the floor, David.
No.
All right,
If the
with
moderator
new
allows.
signatures or anything else?
No, it doesn't. It's
If you want to do it again, he has to get the signatures all over.
It's too late.
It's too late for
Yeah,
that.
it's not, once the warrant's closed, nothing can be changed.
The warrant is closed, yes.
Just have it ready on town meeting floor.
Okay, the next item,
Those in the back that came in late, I got the window open up here. If you're cold, let me know. It's comfortable up here, I can't speak for back there.
It's hot.
okay, Article 19 on our Zoom. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Jody Santagate. I live in Precinct 3 in Wareham.
How you doing?
Hi. So do you want to just...
Go ahead, you have the floor.
My article is 19. It is to continue with Zoom remote access. I think it's a benefit for everyone if we continue beyond the scope of the pandemic with allowing meetings to be, broadcast live, as well as allowing citizen participation, because there are a multitude of reasons why somebody would not be able to physically attend a town meeting, not like town meeting, I'm talking about like the planning board, your meeting going on at the finance committee, the board of selectmen meetings. For one, Wareham has a very large elderly community. I'm on the Council on Aging Board of Directors, so I try to advocate for the seniors as much as I can. With that being said, many of them can't easily attend meetings. We're already doing it now, and there's other towns, for instance, Framingham, they have already enacted a bylaw where beyond the pandemic, beyond Governor Baker's, I'm not sure the exact date of when he has requested towns to continue with the remote access. I think it's June of '22, but don't quote me on that. Other towns have already taken this and made it permanent for their bylaws. Stowe has, and Framingham have. We're already using the technology. We have the money coming in from Verizon and Comcast through the FCC. There's COVID money. So it's really not going to be, as far as I know, and from speaking to the other towns, Framingham, it's at no cost to the taxpayer. We're already using it. I don't know if this meeting is being broadcast live or not, but last night the Board of Selectmen was. We want transparency within our government, we meaning myself and majority of the people I know. Transparency with government is big. And to keep that going, I would ask for your support, because, well, quite honestly, there's going to come a time when all of us sitting in this room, for whatever reason, we're not going to be able to physically attend a meeting, and you might want to know what's going on, and you might want to be able to raise your hand and participate and put some input in there.
There's some people are sitting right here who don't even know what's going on.
For a working family, they work 9 to 5, then they pick their kids up at school, and these meetings take place 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. Is it fair for them to be able to sit, to have to pick and choose, geez, well, let me do homework with you guys, or let me go sit at the finance committee meeting to find out what's going on? I heard last night that, maybe the governor is not going to continue this. Maybe he will. I don't know. I can't speak for him in the future, but I do know that with what I've read, he's advocating for it, and there's many legislatures, state representatives, they as well are. So I say, let's try to make Wareham a forward-thinking community. Instead of waiting to see what the governor and other towns make permanent, why don't we represent ourselves as being a leader? And let's just set the pace and make this happen now, rather than waiting to see what our neighbors and our governor do.
Now, did you say that it's being paid for by Comcast and Verizon?
Well, I don't know the exact
And
verbiage.
COVID?
The FC, well, no, how has it been maintaining since?
I think you said COVID also.
COVID monies, correct. The
That's
technology,
not
I'm
gonna,
talking.
that's not gonna be here very long, we
No,
hope.
but it's to no cost of the town because we're already doing it. Everybody has a phone or a laptop, mostly. Or even if you don't, if you have the technology to just call in and participate.
Dominic?
But, you know, we live tonight, correct, Bernie?
Yes, we are.
Okay. You know, by doing the meetings live, but by putting it on Zoom, you said that they could have participation. We don't have public participation in our meetings. In other words, the public can't ask us a question.
You don't have any public comment time, citizens' participation.
Not that I know of.
If they
The
come
audience,
in-
we have a rather open meeting versus like the selectmen is very structured, school committee is very structured, we're a little open. The audience is equally a member of our conversation as we go forward and all. And so it's not limited for us, but that we're an exception.
Well, let's just say, you know, I need to come in and speak to you about something, but I don't drive at night. You know, wouldn't you
It's
think?
supposed to be put on the agenda. We don't have anything on the agenda that says public participation. Doesn't say it on our agenda, Bernie, so that it's not supposed to be.
It is because I allow it to be. That's how I run the meeting.
I understand that you run the meeting, but it's
public-
not on, if it's not on,
If it's, but Dominic, if it's on, it says public participation, on the strictest sense, the way the rules are, is a citizen can come up and express their interest. But there's no dialogue that goes on between us and the presenter. That's strictly when they go to the selectmen or the school committee. For us, we don't have that because we have open conversations anyway. Whomever shows up, if they want to join in our conversation, they can, if they have
they
something
can
to
join in
do.
our conversation, I understand that. What we're talking and discussing about at the time, but they just can't come in and bring up a subject.
No,
That's not,
no.
okay, that's
That's
what I'm
not
trying.
what this would be, but it would be
Okay.
to continue remote access and
And I, I
participation.
don't have a problem with that, but you were saying, most of the seniors, I'm only speaking for myself, technology is way above my head,
It's
a lot
not,
of them.
it's fairly simple, and a lot of them.
You say that,
a
I
lot
get
of
trouble
them-
getting on Zoom meetings, you know what I mean?
It's pretty
I have a
simple.
flip
We know
phone I
that,
have
Dom.
trouble with, okay?
But you know what, the seniors of today
Yeah.
are gonna someday
It's-
dwindle away, and the people that are my age group are gonna be a senior.
I don't have-
I already know how to use that technology.
Okay, I don't have a problem with it as long as you don't get rid of live meetings. If you wanna add it to a meeting, I don't have a
So
problem
that's
with
what
it.
you wanna do.
Just keep
Just wanna
the way
open
it's
the
been,
meeting
right,
up to
correct,
the-
like it's been
Okay.
going on through COVID.
Yeah, and it's a great idea, and we should have kids in school looking at these meetings. I mean, this is.
I've learned a
Open
lot.
this whole thing up and let's see what's
Correct.
going on.
I've learned a lot about how government works just by listening and not being physically present.
Jody, do you have a comment?
Yeah. I hate to be the nitpicker on these
It's
articles.
fine, go right ahead.
No, it's not bad. I don't have an issue, I don't have an issue with the meetings going on, whatever. But I was kind of curious, and I saw your article about Zoom meetings and hybrid meetings. And I'm saying, what exactly is the difference? Well, there is a difference if you look up the definitions. Zoom meeting is kind of what the selectmen do. You sit in your living room and stay in front of a laptop and stuff. And I like the in-person, like what we're doing now, and I'm glad you could make it. If somebody couldn't, then I don't have a problem. But a hybrid meeting is more what you're looking for. Is that a hybrid is, they define it as a subset of people attending at the meeting is located together in the same place, other participants joined by meeting by conference call or web conference. I think that's a definition I like. Zoom, I'm not, I mean, it's right here, you can take this if you want. It just says hosted using Zoom, and the meeting's done all basically remotely.
That's.
Well,
what
I think
was
Zoom
saying.
now is taking on a life of its own. It's a characterization of what is taking place. Zoom is a brand name,
Yeah,
Right.
you're right.
but it's taken on, it's like other things have a life cycle on their own, but they
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
the same.
And the other thing, that's just my comments. And the other thing is, that the Wareham Cable is, the town, I don't know how much say the town has over what they do or don't do. But it does take more people. It takes 2 people to do this meeting here tonight. If we were to do this hybrid, it takes 3. I'm not sure what they have for staffing. I can tell you, I've watched a bunch of meetings on TV, the selectmen's meeting last night. As soon as they did shared screen, I couldn't understand anything that was going on, and I was on channel 30. But you got those rainbow lines that were coming
Right,
down,
right.
and everybody shaking their head, and I watched the planning board, I finally shut it off. I couldn't stand it, so, yeah, the technology's out there, but I can't sit here and say the cable company has the best of the best to do it. That would be up to them, and I'm not sure how much the town
I know that
would
there
have
are,
to say.
there is an answer to that. Do I know exactly what it is? No, I don't, but I can get you the answer, not today. But I do know that there is an IT tech available, and I don't know if it's through a grant or if there isn't. Excuse me for not knowing the answer, but I don't.
Well, I think you have to let's clarify one thing. WCTV is a separate entity. It's not a municipal department. We don't have any control over, we have their own board of directors. We don't have any control of their expenditures or what they do. If we impose this, we're imposing it on ourselves, and Matt down the hall is not capable of doing that. He doesn't have the system to do it. So you're asking an independent entity.
Well, can I
to do it.
interrupt? Have they
And
been,
for Zoom, from my point of view, Jody just mentioned, it's been out there for 2 years, and they still haven't made it that easy to watch, to be a spectator.
well, he's watching, you were watching on TV.
That's on TV,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was
Yeah.
watching on TV.
Watch on
I gotta be
TV.
honest with you, I spent an hour trying to get on a Zoom meeting this morning. I tried to set up on my computer so I could invite somebody into a meeting I was having.
Well, that's like anything when
And
you
I
first.
found, once I finally
when you
got it
first
figured
use
out, it was
then you-
possible.
Right, when you
It took
first,
me a little bit.
when you first use anything.
Yeah, oh, I
Back in
agree.
the day when you got the VCR, you probably had to figure out, how am I gonna record
did.
this, Anything you learn, and then, the technology's out there, and it would just be a shame for Wareham to lag behind. I mean, no
Okay.
disrespect, but we
How do we
Yeah.
make sure that anyone speaking on Zoom is a resident of our town?
That's a requirement.
How do we do that?
That's a good question. I didn't really think of that one.
How do you
If
know
don't mind,
we're
I
from
write it
town?
down.
But have you
You
all-
wouldn't, really. I mean, unless you see their face and I'd say, oh, I know
No, that's
who you
not-
are, but you wouldn't.
And we're all wearing masks. Don't we wear masks at
Somebody could
home?
call in, what you say on the telephone.
Somebody could call in from
Anywhere,
Marion
anywhere.
or someplace else, or,
All you need is download the agenda. It'll have the passwords on it. That's public information. They have to put
right,
that
if you,
on
so
the agenda.
it's on the agenda. It's been on the agenda. So anyone who gets
You're not
the,
making votes. I don't believe that because it's the board. Board are the ones that do the vote, right? So even if
Correct.
we had Zoom participation and somebody from Marion participated.
or California or
Right,
someplace
they're not
else.
voting, so,
No, but they're providing
Input.
input.
Because we even
They're
have,
not a resident.
when Stuart goes down to Florida, he joins our meetings remotely.
But he's a resident.
Yes, but I mean,
Which is
as far as
fine.
the remoteness is concerned, that's not an issue. But it is when you have people coming in that, as I said, Stuart can come in, anybody else can come in, and we have to, it's the discussion part. Obviously, the votes aren't taken by Zoom, that's not appropriate. And you might.
Well, in a Zoom meeting, if it's a Zoom meeting,
You gotta do a roll call.
you do a roll call and votes are taken at a Zoom meeting
Well, I even
on the
recognize
board.
you with a mask, so I know who you are.
On the board,
yeah, well, that's with the board.
right.
And that's how it's been going since COVID started, however you guys have been operating. Would be the same as far as the votes.
But have you explored the financial impact of
I
imposing this?
spoke briefly with Steve Ruiz, but I believe there is going to be very little.
There still will be an impact, though. We just have Jonathan now here, because he controls the cameras, and that's the only reason we need Jonathan at this point in location. Zoom would be run out of the studio on Main Street, and there'd have to be another party over there. Now, usually, Conservation Commission meets on the same evening, and if they are televised, they will require additional manpower for them to also Zoom. So at the minimum, you're adding 2 people on the staff over there at WCTV. And that's a concern I have now. Whether or not they can afford it, that's fine, but they are an entity, and they can refuse, because we have a contract with them, but the contract doesn't necessarily include all of this. We deal with them through a contract, not just say, hey, I want you to do this, or I want you to Zoom 2 meetings tonight or 3 meetings tonight. And he's not required to do it. And that's an issue I have, that you're requiring something of another entity that we don't have total control over. So that's a cost to us if we assume the responsibility of running the Zooms. Potential is very unlikely, because they have all the technology, of course. It's just a thought. It is have.
Well, the technology's already there, we already have it, it's been utilized.
But sometimes these remote things, I can tell you, I tried watching a football game on TV Friday night, and I had to shut it off. It didn't come in at all. It was just those rainbow lines down it, and it would come on for 3 seconds and go off, so they still have a ways to go to work out some of the issues.
The Zoom itself is difficult to manage. I, as a chair, have not wanted. Fortunately, the members rather have in-person meetings and discussions versus going to a Zoom. Watching the way the chairmen have to handle it, it's not an easy thing to do, I don't believe. And it kind of interferes with my role as a chairman. Yes?
Hi, Tricia Wirtz. I've been doing work for the WRA group. Bernie knows it. We sat for about 2.5 hours and talked. And it's a project, it's a 2-pronged project. One of the prongs is understanding what the communication model is. If I can put this down, you can probably hear me a little bit better. What the communication model is in order to reach our various citizen bases. Because we have 5 or 6 different citizen bases, at least, minimum. If you go just by age, you can have the elderly, and now that I'm in an elderly age, there's the really elderly, and then there's the elderly.
Speak for yourself, Trish.
Then there's the citizens who have families, who have children. There's single adults, and you can almost pair those with empty nest people. Then you have the new voter, the 18 to 25-year-old, 28-year-old. You have the families with children in schools, and you have, some people call it another whole category, the non-voters. We are looking at how to involve our citizens more. The bigger we get, the fewer that are involved. And the more often there is a split between what our citizens expect, but we don't talk to them, and they don't talk to us. Zoom gives us a way for all citizen bases to talk. When you look at, if you can use Zoom, I can put on my computer the package to conduct a Zoom meeting or the package to participate. It doesn't cost me anything. So when you start looking at what can be added cost here, it would be to make sure that you had it so you could record it and keep in recorded files. You technically don't even have to include the television with it if everybody has computers. So I think I work with companies all over the world like this. My customer base ran whole businesses like this. I belong to a dive club that works all over the country like this. And there's minimal to no extra cost. I think the cost here would be primarily in making sure it also is shown on the television and that you have the right recordings of the meetings. But if you want your customers, if you want your citizens, if you think of your citizens as customers, if you want them to be part of what we are, you cannot do it without Zoom today. And when you look at those categories of citizens that we have, heck, the extra elderly are using it as much as the 18-year-olds. And those of us who might be left out in the middle are only those of us who have gotten lazy or got late into the game. And I have preference, I prefer using stone tablets, but that doesn't work either. So we have to go with Zoom. I don't think there's an option for it if you really want your citizens to participate in this government. That's it.
Change is hard.
I think the TV is an important part of it. I like the idea of, I don't have an issue with the hybrid and having residents come in on the meeting and stuff, but I do think it needs to be for that group
Yeah.
that might not have a laptop or a computer to sit there and watch it. So I think the TV is an important part, and they can always call in if they felt.
I do agree with you on that, but I don't think it's the primary part. I think it's a secondary part. I think it's crucial for citizens who want to use it. I still look at the public TV sometimes, but I don't think it's the primary part anymore.
Yes. Your name, please?
Annie Hayes.
I think your mask on, we can hear you.
Oh, Annie Hayes, hi.
Thank you, Annie.
I am coming to these meetings probably because I can't do Zoom. So I really like the hybrid model, and I really like getting to know who you folks are and listening to your dialogue and seeing who you are. I think it's wonderful. But there are about 12 chairs here, and on Zoom you're hitting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands, potentially, of people as they learn. You know, we're going to try to get more civics education in high school and even in the middle school, because we need it as a country to support our democracy. This is great, and people should be hearing this, and they can't in this room. Only a very small, limited people, and I feel fortunate to be one tonight.
Thank you. Gentlemen, any other concerns, questions?
Oh, everyone can hear it because it is being broadcast also.
Not everyone has cable.
Cable's expensive.
Yeah, and not only do you have to have basic cable, you also have to rent a cable box on top of that. So
That's
if you
true.
just have basic cable, you can't get it.
This also goes to our website.
Yes.
It's also available on
It's
YouTube.
also on the website.
Live,
And
excuse
if
me,
you have a computer,
live
it's
on the
on our
website?
I think my only,
It's live on the website?
my only question is who would moderate the Zoom? With live people talking, who would moderate that? Who would watch for the hands raising, who would?
Generally, I think it's the chairman of the
Yeah.
Chairman, it's a specific position
Right.
for chairman, but letting them in and out would be on a third party at the studio.
You need three
I think
people.
the chairman.
Could the chairman, so I was in a legislation meeting a couple days ago for a different party. But the chairman was not the person running the moderation for the meeting. They had somebody else because there were hundreds of people in the room
Yeah.
for that meeting. So there's no way the chairman could watch 1,000 people in a Zoom meeting and be able to.
You know, you
Yeah.
can.
There aren't
you can
any
handle-
size constraints, because if you do, being now with just town meetings and all, if you have a representative town meeting, they're allowing that to use Zoom. But Jody and I are familiar with Stoughton, which is a representative, and they're doing a Zoom.
It's a
And
nightmare.
It's a nightmare because they have a third party next to the moderator trying to keep track of the people who have raised their hand on the screen and telling the moderator to call them at the appropriate time.
That would be my question, is who would be who would be paying attention to that to allow the chairman to do their job?
It seems very cumbersome in a large group. Alan, do you want to say something?
Yeah, what you have is you have a thing called Zoom bombing too, which created a real problem.
We had that happen.
I've had a couple, like Serp had a couple, we had to cancel our meeting on because someone came out of nowhere and came into the meeting and we really couldn't get them out and stuff. But the issue you have is we do have a contract with WCTV. It specifies basically what kind of service they'll supply. Unfortunately, the contract's being worked on now. We're starting to discuss it. We haven't appointed anybody for the contract yet, right?
I don't know if that's with the with WCTV, that's with the
No, it's with
cable
us.
companies, isn't it?
No, it's with us. We do
Yeah.
the contract
Right, but
Always
it's with
have
the
it.
cable companies.
with the cable companies.
Not with
But it
WCTV.
includes the WCTV contract, we do that as well, as a separate piece. So it's not, they're supposed to give us what they can. The problem is that they don't have the personnel. They've got upgraded equipment, but they still need more to go. They get X number of dollars comes through the town. The town keeps, I think, 5% of the total monies, and the rest goes to WCTV. And I think you've got we have an article, fall town meeting for more money to go over to them.
Our regular
It happens twice a year now.
transfer, yes.
So the issue for Steve and the people there is, A, like right now tonight, you've got CPC, ZBA, and the FinCom. They don't have money to live broadcast all three. They don't have the equipment, or the rooms right now, and they don't have personnel. You know, so the problem is that you can say they can do it, they can't. It's been an issue right along. So a lot of times what happens is the meeting will get recorded, and it'll be broadcast a day or 2 days later. But I understand, I use Zoom for Serpent, and we use a hybrid. If people want to come into Taunton, it's fine. If not, we go both ways. And we have a system that we have in there called OWL. And the OWL system allows us to control who comes in and who comes out. And it works pretty well, and they work with 50 to 200 people. When you get a really large number, it becomes very difficult. But it can be done. But we're gonna have to outline it, and we're gonna have to go through a contract to get it done, et cetera, because the town doesn't have the monies right now to do it on their own. We're in the process now of taking the auditorium downstairs. Everybody notices they're air conditioning the whole building because we're able to use, CARES money, and the CARES money is virtually gone. We've used almost all of it now. So that's what's happening with that money there. And we've done it, I think we have 2 or 3 actual rooms that can record and broadcast TV.
Right.
So the auditorium could be another one. The school department is a little bit more difficult because they have their own issues there. So we have this room, selectmen's room, and that's it right now. We'll have the other room downstairs. Hopefully we'll use it for a lot more things than what we do now because they're going to go ahead and do the interior of the auditorium so the ceilings won't come down and hit you because they're peeling everywhere. So, I mean, the other thing is that I had a problem, and I'm really disappointed because we don't have a method of taking people who do citizens petition articles and somehow getting them some legal advice. So when the articles come before the selectmen or before town meeting, they're vetted properly, so they don't end up going in like Barry's article. So it comes in here, and the articles are really difficult. The wording is really critical. May, shall, could. You have to show where the money's coming from. You can't just say, we want $15,000 on one of them, but you have to actually specify where the money's coming from. So there's a lot of these defects and stuff. Yeah, the only issue I had with this particular article really was that because of my work with the lieutenant governor and governor through the MMA and stuff, the governor has basically given us the idea that he's modified the open meeting law to allow this to happen. And as far as we know, as of right now, we hit a certain date, it's over. So town council last night made it very clear we would be basically violating the open meeting law if that happened. Even if we had our own, bylaw here, it wouldn't hold because it would violate the open meeting law then. And right now, we're allowed to violate the open meeting law by having Zoom, et cetera, by having these meetings.
I'm glad you brought that up because indeed, it would be a violation of the open meeting law, and unless the legislature changes that, we could not go forward with this, regardless of your intent, and we agree with your intent.
Yeah, the governor was only able to do this because it was an emergency order.
Yes.
He bypassed the House and Senate, because he probably never would have got it passed any other way, unfortunately.
I would just like to point out that the MMA supports hybrid meetings. They did have a resolution to support, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, Mr. Slavin. Mr. Muniz and I participated in their presentation on how to conduct hybrid meetings. It was a Zoom presentation. I've sent the link around to almost everyone I can think of, but I highly recommend that you watch it. It shows 2 different towns and how they implemented the solutions. One of the towns did not have a lot of money to throw at the problem, and they found creative solutions to it, and they're doing it. And they've been doing it since the spring. And what they found is that it increased participation from citizens, and they were committed to continuing that, and it was doable. So I would highly recommend that you look at the people who are actually doing it, because they're finding a way.
Well,
And-
if they're going into a violation of the open meeting law,
No,
doesn't make any difference
I
who
would
they
also
are or
like
how
to
well
say-
they're doing it, they have to stop doing
I
it.
would also like to say that you could incorporate severability. If there is a law that changes on the state level, then our bylaw then doesn't continue in that regard. I mean,
Well,
that's what severability is.
At this point in time, this particular, when the governor's order expires, we'd be in violation automatically, and we'd have to stop, period. We just
Yeah, but
couldn't.
there's contract language for that. It's called severability. It should be included in a redraft of this.
It doesn't even have to be
certainly, but-
language there, we have to stop doing it, because we would be in violation. We just couldn't pursue it. Say it's severability upon expiration, that's an automatic, because we are in violation of law, so we'd have to stop doing it anyway.
Yeah, as far as the MMA goes, I had my board of directors meeting a couple of days ago. We have a brand new office in Boston, we moved.
Yeah, I know.
And, we still have been doing, remote, Zoom meetings right up through. This was our, we call visioning for the whole year coming up. Unfortunately, that particular subject was not part of our vision of the things going forward, just so I understand. We had three things basically in one fourth category, so it wasn't included as of right now.
Yeah, we haven't brought that issue on my board.
MMA itself would like to go back in person, bring everybody in. It may, as of right now, what's happening is our annual convention in Boston is gonna be in person instead of Zoom this year.
Yeah.
So they're already starting to convert over as they can.
I'm looking forward to it, I get a lot of good
I have
goodies.
no problem personally as far as doing Zoom. Say, as chairman of the Serpent Commission, I gave all 27 communities the choice. Do you want to do in person? Do you want to do Zoom, or you want to do a hybrid? And it was about 60 for Zoom and 40% in, so that's what we do. But we had the money, and we went in and bought this OWL system, which is 2 or 3 steps above what Zoom is. And we can control everything going in.
One more comment.
Thank you. This is my homework for the week. I haven't done it yet, but at the beginning of the pandemic, maybe around April, when the governor did the, I don't know if that was the open meeting thing, but right around then, there was a big article in the Globe about the legislators that were proposing legislation for permanent Zoom access. It was supported by sort of across-the-board associations for people with disabilities. I think Maura Healy was for it. I could look it up and send it to you probably, but I haven't followed where that legislation is, and that was my homework, so I could let you know on that. But there's so many people in the legislature that wanted to have that. I mean, you know how convenient it is for everybody.
It's gonna happen eventually. You know,
I mean,
It's gonna happen
you're right,
eventually.
technology is
It's
definitely
gonna
gonna
happen, just like, typewriters turn into computers. It's gonna
Are
happen
we ready
eventually.
for it? That's more of, that's the real question.
No, I think you're right, it will happen eventually.
Yeah.
Right, it's a matter of whether or not.
Any more comments from the members? Well, there being none, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joey.
And the last Article 20, the repurpose of the Diga School.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm going to bring up, I'm Leslie Edwards
Yes.
Davis. I'm going to bring up John Dahlmeyer. He's been working with me and our committee on this. And I do have a
Excuse me a moment.
PowerPoint.
I apologize. Something came up a day or so ago. It's important because it revolves back in this article, which is, for me anyways, really good news. The school department in Shaverwood, the town administrator had been talking for a little while. The school is moving out of the multi-service center. We're getting it back.
Oh.
Official as of today. I'll be meeting hopefully with Sharon Frank from the COA tomorrow to go through to see what they want to use for rooms, etc. We're moving the COA, etc. back in to the multi-service center, just so everybody knows. And that happened today, and Mrs. Shaverwood confirmed that.
Oh, that's great, because they've got a kitchen and everything over there.
Yes,
They've used it already, I mean.
It's the seniors from day one, when I try to move them to the Hammond School, we want to stay in the multi-service center. We were looking for different places to go. No, we want to stay in the multi-service center. Well, guess what? They finally have what they want. It's happening.
These are not the conversations I've had with the COA, but I have a presentation.
It just happened today, just so you know.
I'm saying that they don't want to
know.
stay in the multi-service center.
Well,
They did in
until
the
they
past.
agree, they can't say it publicly. A lot of things go on in the background, and until it's a decision, that's when it becomes publicly acknowledged or discussed more publicly. Yeah. Use the laptop over there.
Or you can get a hold of Derek, Kim,
I left a message for him today, and he must have been busy.
just so you get the details. I have no idea what the date transfer is. All I know is the school transfer won't happen until after April.
Indeed.
That's all I know.
Where they going?
I think that part of it will be, I think, at the new school.
No.
No?
The offices, that's where you're
It's
asking.
either could be the East School or the one by the church.
This has an admin password.
I'm not familiar with that.
I think you just click by it.
I don't think that that's gonna be possible, no. Can I just put my laptop into your HDMI cable?
Give it a try.
I was told that this was all set up so it would be very simple.
It should be.
Like a Zoom meeting.
Well, I mean, I can't use it if there's no password, no one knows what the password is, right?
Guest, you type in guest, I don't know, try that.
Nope.
And I'm out of suggestions.
It was running this afternoon.
What did you say, Matt?
We had a meeting here.
Thank you.
So you'll get a hold of that.
HDMI cable out, thank you.
And gentlemen, I want you to know, we're going to finish our votes this evening. We have Article 1 we're going to cover. David has graciously agreed to do the presentation. I'll even ask you to write it. You have more intimate knowledge of it.
Good, I'm over the room 27. We have a person that wants to hook into the laptop here to do a presentation. If I put her on the phone, can you go over with her?
She's already running hers.
Thank you. It's Matt, I'm the IT guy.
Hi Matt, how are you? So
Oh, we'll do the
I've
votes
got the
this evening
HDMI
also.
cable plugged in. I thought this would be all up and ready. I had to put my laptop in it instead of the one that was sitting here. So can you just guide me about what I need to do? Yep. Yep. All right, I just turned it on, I think. So much. It's Windows.
Then as long as it's online, I'll say please let the record show that Dominic arrived 10 minutes late, so he's a member. For the record.
Not a problem.
I spoke with Kelly today. She,
Okay, I think we're
for
good.
some reason, or they haven't signed the
All right,
contract yet
thank
to have her
you.
do our minutes.
All right, good night.
Hit the light?
Thank you, yes, that would
Not
be
all
great.
the lights off.
No?
We can't put the lights off?
Not all the lights off. There you go.
All right, I also have, can you just pass these down? I have some hard copies for you. They're not of the entire set of slides, they're just a redacted group of them. And I think I'm just gonna stand over here so I can do my advancing of my slides. So, Jonathan and I are part of a working group of citizens proposing to repurpose Deacon School when it's vacated as a multi-generational community center, providing and serving the needs of residents from 1 to 100 who have expressed a variety of uses that this building would be a perfect fit for. I can't take credit for all of this information. It's a group of 15 citizens who have been working for months on putting this proposal together. They've looked at it from all the angles. They've talked to hundreds of citizens about what they would like to see here. They've looked at all the documents about the school. We've been on tours. We've looked at all the square footage. So it does come with a bunch of research that's been done to and we've all come to the conclusion after looking at everything from all those different angles that this is literally the perfect opportunity for us to meet existing community needs with very little use of town resources to achieve it. And this is our one opportunity to make so many things happen, like a true senior center, like a true community center. We can't wait until we have $8 million to build a new building because it will literally never happen. This is our one chance to achieve those goals. Some of the things that are part of the DECUS infrastructure that make it so perfect are the cafeteria, the industrial kitchen, the stage, 2 gymnasiums, there's a large one and a small one. They're perfect for senior luncheons and activities, all of their physical fitness activities, the chair yoga, the mahjong groups would have plenty of room to spread out, community meals that can involve everyone from the town, theater productions, film showings. The COA has talked about a desire to do a dinner and a movie night. It would be perfect in that setting. There could be room for a food pantry because there's a loading dock, there's an industrial kitchen, cooking classes. You could have a shared use kitchen, which is one of the Baker initiatives. That's a kitchen where, let's say you have a cottage industry and you make jam, but you need a commercial kitchen that's approved to do such a thing. This creates jobs and creates small businesses with a shared use kitchen. The classroom spaces offer so much potential for early ed, after school programs, which were both of which we're in dire need of in Wareham to support working families. They offer space for co-working, which if you're not familiar with, it is shared workspace for small business owners, entrepreneurs, people who work from home. We have so many of those folks these days, and these are places where they can have space where they aren't in their house every day, where they can network with other professionals. Many of us have been part of these spaces in other communities. There's one in New Bedford, actually there's 2 in New Bedford, and it's also one of Governor Baker's initiatives that we should be encouraging these co-working spaces. They also have very little overhead to get started. It's literally space, tables, and chairs, and Wi-Fi. We could also incorporate a maker space, which is a sort of a co-working space 2.0, where you have access to tools, both technological and traditional tools. You might have access to a 3D printer, you might have access to a heat press, things that would also support small one-person businesses, small entrepreneurs in building what they're working on. We would also obviously have space for adult credit and non-credit enrichment classes. I just read an article from 2017 in Wareham where the school was talking to the select board about offering these classes, the need for them, how great it would be, and it's still not happening, and we could house those classes here. They could be job readiness classes, they could be classes on how to use Zoom, technology classes, they could be enrichment classes, painting, a book club, a poetry writing class. These are things that other towns offer, and we could provide these amenities all at DECUS. One great component about DECUS, it's all on one level, so it takes away some of the accessibility issues that are currently facing the COA in its current location in that gym where you have to go down a set of stairs or use an elevator. The campus itself offers so much opportunity. You've got an enclosed courtyard, you've got a big parking lot, playground, sports fields. You could have farmers market there, you could have walking trails, extracurricular youth sports would continue there. We want to continue the relationship that exists already with sports using those fields. You could have events. Literally, the possibilities are endless because of the way DECUS is constructed. This proposal would meet goals that we've outlined in the master plan, and I feel like we talk about the master plan so much, but we we put it on the back burner and we don't follow it. And there was wisdom in the folks who put together this master plan, many of whom are in this room, many of whom are on our boards. The master plan said we need a community center, and where naturally Council on Aging would probably be part of that, which is what most communities do, and this would solve that issue. repurposing Deacon's also meets so many state level goals. So it would meet the age-friendly mass action plan, it would meet the Baker Initiative to establish collaborative workspaces, it would meet the initiative to offer more adult basic ed class offerings and to do more work-ready youth programs. If you think that the idea of repurposing a school seems odd, it's not odd. It's happening all over the state and all over the country. This is the Carl Community Center in Dover. This is the Chatham Community Center, all in old schools, the Lenox Community Center. If you think it's about having money, and that's the only way we can get to this, solve this dilemma, it's not, because some of the poorest cities and towns in Massachusetts, quote unquote poor, according to their per capita income, they have senior center, community centers, and they have them in brand new buildings with really nice amenities. This is Randolph Intergenerational Community Center. This is Holyoke Senior Center. Both of those constructed within the last decade. We don't have the money to do that. I understand that, but we do have the money to repurpose DECUS for these community uses. Mr. Muniz and I met with the Director of Parks and Rec from Dover, Mass. He was incredibly enlightening because their community center kind of tracks exactly with this idea. I'm not saying that Dover is like Wareham. I'm not comparing those are apples and oranges, but their community center repurposed a school that was in worse condition than DECUS. They made it run net zero contribution from the town based on leasing agreements to community organizations who use the building. They balanced their budget that way. They covered all their costs that way. And they had the Director of Parks and Rec and the Director of the COA managing the day-to-day use of the space. They had the town administrator leasing those agreements with the renters. That's exactly how it would work here. They had a daycare, a dance studio, a cycling business, a parent organization based in that building. They did the Corey checks. I know that's been a question raised to make sure that the space was safe for everyone. And they ran that program for 20 years, and now they're building a new building because it's successful, and they passed a resolution at town meeting to appropriate real money to build a very nice new building. But they made this work in a school for 20 years. This is a proposed operating budget of how we would pay for this with the use of the building itself. So these utilities are based on FY21 actuals. We would have a facilities operation manager. We would have maintenance. We would have building repairs and maintenance. That number is from the estimate from the school budget, the amount they requested for building repairs and maintenance for DECUS. It comes to about $268,000. And just an FYI, that is in the range of other towns' budgets for their centers that we looked at. So it is not a crazy lowball figure. In terms of income, we looked at classroom rentals, 2 organizations, one big renter taking up several classrooms, and then smaller renters taking up smaller classrooms, and I'll show you how that layout would look in just a moment. We would look at event rental. I think that number is actually really low. If you've ever booked an event, like a wedding recently, that would be like 2 in a year. So I think that is a lowball figure. The courtyard is an incredible space, and I'm telling you, people will want to rent that for a company event, a wine and cheese gala. It's very pretty in the summer. Co-working space rental. I know that Jonathan and I both want to sign up for this co-working space, and we can tell you a little bit more about what that kind of space would mean to people who work from home, people who are like architects, or people who are IT professionals who need to build a community of other professionals and work outside of their home space. Sustaining memberships, that's kind of like you sign up for your community radio station and you give them $6 a month, you forget that you're even paying it, and you're sustaining them every month. They know they can count on that for their budget. If we could get 10 groups or businesses or individuals to do $20 a month, that's such a small amount for an individual, but a huge chunk of this budget. Fundraising, we base that figure on what the Friends of the Library bring in. Grants, we have 13 grants that Jonathan and I researched that are part of the larger packet that I'll send you all by email. They're all legitimate grants that we are eligible for municipal community uses, not for nonprofits, but for a municipality to apply for that we could use as part of this plan. And that's how we come to a balanced budget. I know that one of the comments last night was grants aren't forever, but I would like to tell you that a lot of our town operations operate on grants. We don't know what will happen in the future, but we do rely on them, and I don't think that that should be forgotten when it comes to this concept. For example, the library, 20% of its budget relies on fundraising and grants. The COA right now has been fully funded only by grants, even though there is a town line item for it. They haven't been using it, they've been using grants. So we do rely on grants. It's not crazy. It's not that you're gonna say, oh, the whole budget will be paid for by grants, but grants can certainly be a legitimate component. Some other assumptions that go into this. I've already talked about the COA director collaborating with the facilities manager. One possible assumption is that the 1974 wing, which I'll show you in just a moment, could be temporarily taken offline to the extent possible. So maybe reduced heat, maybe no daily cleaning there. While we think about how we want to use that, certainly if there's a demand for renting that space right away, great, let's rent it. But it is kind of separated off in a way that we could possibly reduce costs initially while we get into this project and then bring it back online. Again, the teams that currently use the sports fields, we love that component of this and we want that to continue. And rental of space in Deacon's has already been happening. If you go to the school district website, you'll find the rental schedule. So this is just simply continuing that concept. And it should already be part of the town's liability coverage. I know you guys are math people, and math is important to me too. We want to get this right, and we don't want to create a situation that is a drain on our community's budget. So a couple of things to point out. We've already put $2.4 million of taxpayer money in this building within the last 5 years. We upgraded the boiler system. If you go in there, you can literally see your face in the boiler. It's shiny and new and beautiful. The roof has been redone in the last 5 years. If we pay $1 million to tear that down, now we're in that building for $3.4 million. That to me is a huge waste. The other concern I have is that MSBA gave us a grant to do that work at that building. They have the right under the law to recapture funds that they gave to us if that building falls out of use in service of education. They don't always go after towns for that, but they do have the right to. And I think that should be a concern on all of our minds. Because then, the $2.4 million that was spent, they covered 70% of that back to us. We are still paying on the 30% that was our responsibility. So we could still be paying our 30%, have the 70% possibly recaptured from us. Those are huge dollars compared to the $268,000 budget we're proposing, and we could be on the hook for that. I also want to talk about the idea of mass building code. I would love for someone to tell us where the requirement is for change of use triggering bringing everything up to today's code, because we have not found it. We've asked every office to supply this. We have not found it. All we have found is that when you renovate a building and you renovate it up to a certain percentage of its value or square footage, then that code trigger would occur. This proposal does not call for that kind of renovation. In terms of the asbestos, everyone does get concerned when you bring up asbestos, rightfully so. The asbestos has been mitigated to a great degree in this building. The remaining asbestos is some ceiling tiles in the main building, the 1969 building. And as long as you're not doing construction with those, they do not need to be removed. That's why they were removed during the repairs in 2017, because they were involved in construction. I'm gonna be wrapping this up because I know we all wanna get home, but we have baked in safety valves into this concept. So number one, the operation of the building is already covered by the current budget that Derek Sullivan is already passed and we're operating under that budget. The costs of operating the building are baked in through June 30th, 2022. So it's already there. It's $70,000, it covers the cost of keeping the building open and operating. If we could keep that $70,000 moving forward, it's already in our balanced budget. It can move forward to FY23 without any new taxes from anyone, without any moving money from any other programs. It's already in our balanced budget. The $15,000 can be taken from free cash, it can be taken from any available funds. It's a tiny amount of money. I don't see that as an obstacle. And it would help us do a study to give us time to correct any issues with this concept, to get guidance from folks who could give us guidance. And then ultimately, let's say this fails. Even though it's been successful in lots of places across the Commonwealth, let's say it fails, there's nothing stopping the town from selling the land down the road and doing what the SERPED report said would be the best use of the building. Nothing will have changed. We will have experimented to try to fulfill existing town needs, and if we fail, we can sell it. I do in your packet that you'll get by email, there's a lot about positive community impacts. Obviously, you can look at the studies that we've cited, but the impacts are real for communities that have community centers. It reduces crime. It gives youth self-esteem and job skills, and keeps them out of trouble. These are what the studies say. They also say for seniors that it helps stave off illnesses of all kinds. The kind of pièce de résistance of all of this is that we have real people with real dollars who want to put into renting this space to bring services to our citizens. We have a letter of intent from South Shore Community Action Council. We have a letter of intent from Damien's Pantry. They want to rent this space. South Shore Community Action Council ultimately would like to have 6 classrooms. And last night during the select board meeting, Derek said, I think that's about $6,700 a month. And he's right. That's substantial money. And that is just 2 organizations going on a limb for us on a concept that doesn't exist yet. If the concept existed and had your support and the support of our town leaders, these letters will be easy to get because people are looking for space, and this is an incredible space. We've also talked to Groundwork Co-working in New Bedford. They have interest in possibly partnering or consulting on putting the co-working space in, or potentially running it. They run one with the city of New Bedford as a collaboration, and maybe they could collaborate with Wareham. It's definitely out there as a possibility. So I'm going to skip just to the end here, and I just want to make a final point. These are all the grants, and I would love for you to review them when you have time, because there is quite a bit of information about the grants. But the elephant in the room is, if we don't repurpose DECUS, what's going to happen to it? Well, there is a SERPED report that was commissioned by the WRA that suggests that the preferred scenario is to put a high-intensity lab flex space there. And the math on that is that it would add 0.5% to our existing tax revenue. To me, and to the people who have been working on this for months, that is not enough to justify knocking down a building that is perfectly good for the uses that we have community needs for. The other thing is that 0.5% could be whittled down by TIFs, and the SERPED report specifically says the town should offer TIFs. So tax incentive financing will drive that 0.5% that we recoup down. There are some other risks with the SERPED plan, and I think if we're going to talk about the risks of the community center, we should talk about the risks of the SERPED plan. And those are, again, that we're putting money in to get to a vacant lot. so $1 million to get to a vacant lot. The tax incentive financing, again, will reduce tax revenue that we bring in for a period of years. There's no current commitment from any business that says that they want that site. The post-pandemic environment for commercial real estate, as you all know, is very volatile and is not what it was pre-pandemic. We have no guarantee that anyone will want to build something on that site. Building costs are up, skyrocketing right now. We have no guarantee that someone will take that vacant lot and develop it. And finally, the Serpent report never even looked at whether a community center was a viable option. They only looked at economic redevelopment options. And I would argue that Deacon's as a community center is an economic redevelopment option. One, there would be jobs. Let's say we bring in a daycare center with 6 classrooms. Those are jobs that Wareham people can fill right away. Number 2, if we have a co-working space, that is an opportunity for people to create jobs. If we have a maker space, that's also an opportunity. If we provide adult basic education classes, that is advancing skills in our community so that people can get jobs. It is an economic redevelopment model. It's just not the big, flashy, high-tech lab model. So I don't think it should be thrown out as it's not an economic development model. It is. It's also a community amenity that brings people here. Right now, our seniors tell us that their friends go to Bourne or Marion for programming, not because we don't have good programming, but because we just don't have the facilities to really like roll out everything that we could do and that they have ideas for doing. We want to be that place that everyone wants to come to. We want Marion folks to be like, oh, I'm going to Wareham because did you know they have this big new beautiful space and they're doing dinner and a movie tonight. And I really think that we could become like a little gem right off the highway where we are offering incredible programs that people are taking advantage of. So that's my pitch. I'll send all of these slides to you. You have some of them in the packet in front of you. Jonathan and I are happy.
Thank you.
Jonathan and I are happy to answer questions.
Questions, comments, Dominic?
One's a statement and then the other's commitment. The MSBA, I've worked with them, to my knowledge, has never asked for money from a town in their entire existence. So to use that up there as kind of as a threat, I think is wrong. Just myself personally. Thank you.
Do they have the right to?
They never have exercised it since
They
2000.
have never ever,
They were created in 2004. They've never
have never ever taken a town for any money,
All right.
ever.
I did not know that, so thank
Okay.
you.
All right. The other thing I want to bring up is your operating budget income. It can fail too easily. Okay, I love the idea. I'm not against the idea at all. But I'm a financial person and the rental, the grants, what is your backup plan for failure for this income?
Well,
And you know what it says right here? F for failure. I'm sorry, that's the way I look at it.
Dominic, help
Okay.
me squeeze nickels out of pennies.
I tried, but this is too much,
Too much presumption.
Too much,
It's presuming.
exact, thank you, Bernie. You're presuming an income that I think isn't even close to being realistic. Especially the rental. You ever drive around town, there's 8 million for rent signs everywhere in this
But
town.
for a facility like this,
Well, you're saying, people want to rent this, right? I'm just saying, there's an awful lot of rentals out there. As far as what you're offering, I don't know much about it. So and I'll say that publicly. But it just seems that you're relying on something that, you need backup plan B.
and I think that we do have backup plan B. So first of all, we have letters in that packet of people currently paying, if they bring 6 classrooms, that's $6,700. The other group is paying $1,600 a month. Those are real dollars that people have said they want to contribute to this project. I know that's not the whole budget. I
No,
understand
no,
you.
But it's letters of intent
I
Is it a
understand.
signed contract?
Right,
Well,
but we're
as a matter of fact,
asking
excuse me,
people to buy
the
into
letters of
something
intent
that
Is good
doesn't
enough, Bernie?
exist.
They don't exist.
Okay.
The
They're-
building
they're-
doesn't
are you-
exist
you
for
have a-
use
Maybe
yet.
have you a verbal comment that they are interested.
No, it's in writing.
They're writing letters of intent to obligate themselves to rent a space that doesn't exist and it currently will not
Won't
exist.
hold water, yeah.
You guys, there's no way to prove, in your question that you've posed to me, there's no way for us to prove that it will work. There's no, it's not possible to prove it because it doesn't exist. You
That's
have
why
to
I'm saying you
take,
need
That's
plan
why
B.
It's not a matter of proving what's possible, it's a matter of what happens if you can't.
and
What's
I
plan B?
do have an answer for that. Number one, there's $70,000 already in our balanced budget. We can carry that forward and
You
use
can-
it.
and
So
you've
June of
qualified that.
2022 is
No, no,
half
no.
over.
Put it into the FY '23
No,
budget.
but you're asking
But
the
that's
town now to put it in its budget.
No, it doesn't come from new.
Is that 70,000 given to the school department budget for that building?
No,
Or
No,
is that
that's-
separate?
It's separate.
And let me
separate?
qualify that. That's in our budget starting January 1. It's not a full
Okay.
year, because it's still under the control, care, and custody of the schools until they vacate. And they're not vacating until January 4th, which
Correct.
is the first day.
correct.
That's when we can take possession. That's when the
Correct.
70,000 covers 6 months, not 12 months.
The full operating costs are about $100,000. You're right. There's 70,000 allocated toward the end of, through the end of June.
That's just heat
Correct.
and light.
Correct. But what I'm saying is, that money can be continued over without any displacement of money from any other program or party, without any new revenue coming in. It literally just carries over in a
Not
balanced
necessarily.
budget. Well, it could.
Because if
Could,
we possibly
actually.
take over
You
the,
just said the right word, could.
if we take
Well,
over the
maybe
multi-service center, that's an expense that falls on our side of the budget. That comes off the schools and falls on the municipal side. So you got 70,000, but you got for only 6 months, but now you have 2 buildings. And with the fact that we're taking over that building is the same as we're taking over the schools. It's tentative right now.
The thing is, we have a lot of vacant buildings in this town that are in worse shape than Wareham. We should be prioritizing the one that is in good shape, consolidating what we can into that building, and dealing with the ones that are in terrible shape, and finding a way to make sense of those buildings. We should not tear down a building that is ready to be inhabited by services that we need homes for.
That's a great idea.
Jody, do you have a question?
Then
You're not,
be a
you
part of it.
I don't have a problem with the idea, honey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a financial person, and this is sad looking.
Tom,
Yes, go ahead.
Jody wants to say
Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah. Couple things. I want to start out, as Dominic did, with a statement. I got involved with the finance committee because of the council on aging when I first moved to Wareham, so it's not that I'm opposed to helping out the COA. And my other, just quickly, where I came from, they call it the youth commission. The youth commission and the COA shared the same building. That wasn't a real comfortable working position to be in. In fact, the person they hired for the council on aging came from that town, and she was very, very good. Unfortunately, COVID hit. My other thing, that's just my statement. $15,000 for the, investigate. What, is there a scope of what this person is gonna do? How you're gonna come about this person? You can't just go to the yellow pages and
No,
call
you-
1-800, look at the building for me.
No, you don't go to the yellow pages.
I'm just-
This was from an architectural firm that has school buildings in their scope of work, and it was to identify if there was, some glaring thing that would prevent this use going forward, or some glaring cost that we had not considered. Basically, to do an assessment to see if you could move in to the building as is and use it for the purposes that we're proposing.
And you just went to one company? I'm not sure.
We're not
what-
doing an RFP, we're just trying to gauge how much it would
Well,
cost.
I'm not sure how
That's where
much
the town-
$15,000
The town
might
would
cover,
need
that's
to
my
do the
only point.
RFP.
Well, it costs to put an RFP together. Somebody has to put the scope in on where it's gonna go. $15,000 would probably cover an engineer to come in and put the scope together for the RFP.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. That's,
Excuse me.
unfortunately,
I just might say, you can't talk about the 15,000. It doesn't source from anywhere, so it can't exist.
FYI, I went through the warrant articles for 7 years going back, and many of them did not say where the money came from. They would say from available funds or free cash, so
The
that is
motion-
not
No,
accurate.
the motion I probably read, and I read all of them, would specify where it comes from. Has to. We don't have money
I
just
just
hanging out
looked
there
at
on the
7
hook.
years of warrant articles, go look
The
at them.
warrant articles as they're written here
Yes.
are not
which
the
is-
motion articles that I read.
Right, but this is what's written here, this is what we're dealing
Okay,
with today.
you're gonna tell me where the 15,000 is coming from as a finance committee? I have no idea.
I'm saying it's coming from available funds or free cash, which is what all the other
You're not
warrant
saying that
articles
here.
say.
Excuse me, I don't mean to be argumentative, but you're not saying that. As a finance person, it has to come from somewhere, and you're not telling me where.
Well, it will be
So for that,
amended
my
to
part
say
of it
from
was
where,
fine,
and I'm telling you
15,000, I'll
verbally
vote
it will come from available funds or
that,
free
that's
cash.
fine. I just kind of know what it costs to put an RFP together. I mean, I've been down these roads before. And I was just wondering the scope of I mean, we don't know how deep they're gonna have to go into this, you know, as an architect or anybody else. Yet, the other part is, I'm gonna work on the expenses. I wish you had put this out earlier, because I put my own spreadsheet together, but I'll work off of this one. I went through the school's budget and come up with all the numbers
Great.
and stuff.
Great,
Just, there's a lot of things missing here, staffing. I mean, I know you have 2 staff positions in here for $70,000. I don't know where you're gonna get 2 people for that kind of money. That doesn't take benefits and everything else into the equation.
it did take, we did 1.35% fringe on that. We're not talking about a professional, manager, we're talking about a facilities operation manager, basically a head building manager, like a,
My only point being, I hate to pick on the COA, because is $70,000 would probably come close just to pay for a director of council on aging, or it should be in that ballpark somewhere. I know they budgeted.
But that's gonna be that would be in the town budget.
Correct.
Right,
Right,
not
that's
necessarily in
separate
this
from
budget.
this.
This isn't gonna affect the.
Well, council on aging is going there, why wouldn't it be in their expenses?
Well, our expenses are already paid for.
they're separate and a separate part of the budget. These are new employees added just for this community
You're
center.
creating another department and staffing it.
Not a department, I don't think.
Yes, it's gonna be a department. Has to be.
Yeah,
Has to be some entity we can apply to. You can't charge against something. When you're charging expenses, you have to charge against something. You have to call it something, because it's gonna be a department. We don't have a Parks and Recreation Department.
We need one.
We got rid of them a long time ago. Had to, because we, excuse me, couldn't afford it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of looking at this custodial people, the directors, I mean, there's a lot of shortfalls in here, in my mind, for staffing. I mean, you're talking about, managing this building, and there's a lot of other expenses that aren't even down here.
The Dover Center does it with 2 directors and a part-time person. I mean, it's being done.
But that's still salaries.
That still sounds.
Right, and we've included that in our model. We've done their model, basically, of staffing.
You're staffing your employees, you're saying $70,200 a year for staffing. That's what, under employees, right?
And maintenance would also be people who were working in the building doing maintenance. For example, at night,
Is that 4 people now?
I don't know, I don't follow how you got 4 people.
Well, you have maintenance.
So how many,
You have 2
There's a
full-time and a
facilities
part-time.
operations manager, and there's maintenance.
How many is that?
Well, maintenance is not a person necessarily in this model, it's people who would come in and maintain the building at night and on weekends. So
Well, you have to pay them.
yes, and there is pay in there.
Well, I mean, you just said maintenance isn't in there, and
I
then
think it was
it is.
intended as a contracting service, a cleaning contracting service.
So it's an expense.
Daily cleaning, right.
So custodial work and all
Right,
that's
so-
gonna be contracted?
Yeah, I think we had a square footage calculation that we sort of based a number
Still an
on.
expense.
Yes, and it's included
Absolutely.
there.
I think it's, Town already has contract services.
I'm confused. Is it not included there?
Well, I'm not sure. When I'm looking at it in the
Well,
context.
I'm looking at maintenance at
No,
68,
finish, Jody.
68.5.
Yes.
So that's gonna include the tractual, that's gonna include all the supplies that may be needed, light bulbs go out, things
That's
need.
in building repair and maintenance, which was from the school budget.
19,000.
So you're having custodians in there, maintaining it.
We're having contracted cleaning services, yes.
Okay.
Let me. Let's look at the revenue side of it. Putting a budget together, you can't make assumptions. I mean, I don't know how the town's gonna decide a revolving enterprise general fund. I can't sit here and tell you, as we sit here now, how that's gonna work. I know putting a budget together, because I put budgets together, I couldn't assume anything. I had to use real numbers. So you can't go in there saying, well, we hope to get, what was it, 60,000 in grant money or 40,000, whatever that number was be. You can't assume that. You have to use real numbers in order to get something through. You can't assume you're gonna rent every room in there.
We didn't.
No, I'm just saying, but you gotta deal with real numbers when you put a budget together. I mean, it's.
Right, and unfortunately,
That's
there aren't real numbers
That's by
that we
state
can.
statute. You can't just
I agree.
make assumptions.
But there aren't real numbers that we can access because it doesn't exist. So what we did instead is base it on similar communities and how they've funded their operations. That's what we can do when something doesn't exist. We look at other places and take their numbers. I mean, I don't know what the other option is for a new concept and rolling it out. I would love your input on how you would estimate those figures when it doesn't exist.
Well,
The apprehension I have in your revenue schedule, we have a library that's hanging on by its fingernails. We have a short term in terms of police officers, we're down with 10 police officers, we should have 55. We have a lot of projects trying to get underway, and we're struggling to even start them or even consider them. We're spending approximately $60 million a year, and that's all we have. 25% of that is state grants. So we have a limited amount of monies, we have a limited amount of tax base, and we can't change that because of 2.5. Just try and start this project, I think it's just out of the question. I think in the context of the revenues that we have and the profitability that we need to do, or the obligations we have with those revenues, just can't allow us to go forward with such an idea. I don't suggest in any way, shape, or form that it's not an excellent idea, but for all practical purposes, I just can't see it in our ability to project or even think about it in the near future. And I would say near future is 2 years at a minimum.
Can I
Dominic?
ask a couple of questions?
Yes?
Where will the $1 million come to demolish it?
Who's talking about demolishing?
yeah, who said that's not
That's
never
not an
been
issue,
mentioned.
that's not a option.
It is, it's in the Serpent report. It's the
Well,
preferred
it's what they
solution.
say,
That's what
it's what
they
we're
say.
gonna do. We don't have $1 million to destroy the building.
Right,
So
agreed.
it's not coming down.
So will it be left to founder into ruin like our other school buildings?
Do we have a guarantee that
We have an
that we
option
can
of
rent
planning
it or
it. We
sell
don't
it?
have an option, madam. We do not have the option of monies to do the alternative, any alternative.
So it will fall into ruin and sit there.
No, I don't think it will, of course not. It's an
Or you
asset.
take the land that's zoned for residential and make it commercial and take over more of the residential
Whatever
area there.
I'm sorry, because you can speculate it all, and I'm not trying to speculate anything. I'm just saying, my understanding of the monies that we have, the revenues that we have, and what our ability is with those revenues, every room, every office in this building is short-staffed, one person at a minimum. We're trying to accomplish just the basics of running our business. And it expends all the monies we have. You talk in terms of grants. We have grants that we've applied for and not received, so it's speculation that you're gonna receive that much in grants.
course it's speculation, but when you look at these grants, they're perfect for what we're doing, and we're literally just walking away from money.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to
We're
be
leaving it on the
rude.
table.
I'm just saying, from my point of view, I don't think there's anything you can say that can change my mind to say that this is an idea that we can fund. Not a great idea that we should always have on the table.
It's been on the table for 2
We just-
decades.
And it's gonna have to, unfortunately, from my point of view, it's gonna remain so, because I don't see where we have the funds to sustain this operation. Especially, COA has always wanted that building.
When
And if
you
they
talk
take-
to the COA, that's not what they say.
I would say, I would
It's not-
love to
but
be this
it-
is the COA.
It's a possibility, you know, we have to think about everything on the table. And what's the big problem on the table is a budget that funds our current operation, expanding it. We were able to do a lot because of the COVID funds, but that's dried up. Dominic?
Miss, the 70,000 from the town, you know, I'd be able to count on that. But when you have an income on your budget, that's assumed. Okay. The rule of thumb is, you can really only rely on like 50% of it. So your budget, because every single one of these is an assumed income. So, you have your expenses at 268. Now, if you take half of your assumed income, you're still 50% in the red. Now, I love the idea.
That's what
I
everyone
love
says.
the- I love
Everyone
the-
says, I love the idea of
I
it.
love the idea,
the idea is amazing.
but your problem here is financing.
So let's all put our heads together and figure out where the money should come
All
from,
right,
because the
I'm not
money
s-
we're
I'm not
talking
saying
about
that,
is so
But you can't
small.
come to town right now with this. They're gonna laugh at you.
They're not. Everyone we're talking to
No,
is,
they love the idea, I
Right, and
understand
they
that.
want
But there's
all
a
of
lot of
us to
smart
figure
people
it
there
out.
that are gonna, all right, well, then that's where you need to go back to.
That's
the
what we
drawing
need to
board.
do, right,
Okay.
take everybody, everybody says it's a great idea, can't we get everybody together and work on this? Maybe it won't go through
Okay.
just like this, get the town administrator involved, get the selectmen, go over these things, other towns have done this, it's not rewriting anything. Maybe it doesn't have to be decided right this second, but
Okay.
everybody
And
agrees.
it should happen.
Right,
But
and
we
that's-
need more,
yeah.
you need, I just think you need more of this to
Then
go
let's get
forward.
more of that, I
Okay.
agree,
All
I
right.
agree.
Okay.
And maybe the town and everybody could work together to do that,
Numbers,
because
you
it's
know,
a
numbers is
wonderful
what we do,
idea.
and that's-
I agree, and everybody says it's a great idea. We've been wanting a community center for years. This is in our pocket right now to be able to do. Maybe these numbers don't add up, but let's get you know, if we get, and I know we can get Head Start probably, there's half the funds right there. You could get a I mean, people will go into the school setting and use it. I mean, I think it's so doable, and it just seems such a waste to not do it. We're gonna be paying to keep the school open, whether we put heat, you know, try it. Let's, you know, get people together and work on a plan. It
Jim?
doesn't have to be this plan, but.
We did a small tour today, and Jack Coach, you're the executive director from, what is it,
South
South
Shore
Shore Community Action Council. Is very interested, and he'd do a 4-year with an additional 4-year for classroom space. They'd put in air conditioning in his own spaces. Of course, that's up to Derek to do all the, you know, leasing
Right.
and contracting and everything. And they're looking at 5 to 6 spaces. He's very interested. Damien's, they looked at it, and you basically, you know, when everything's ready and you've got it transferred, let us know what you want to do and what we might be able to do. And Dan Butler from the WRA walked through the building with us today. I've had about 30 people go through there. And we actually got the, which I'll hand over to, the HERA report, which is asbestos for the building and whatnot. And we also, I spoke with Helen Bradbury from the Donovan Center. She's in no hurry, but she, you know, just keep her options open. And that's just us, you know. It's an idea, we should work together. This is the first thing I heard about vacating the multi-service center, which actually is on deed restricted property for education. But, you know, so that's brand new to me. And, I don't know, did you hear about it? This is a director.
Yeah, tonight.
She's a
I would like
director.
to point out, though, that the multi-service center does not solve the mobility and access issues.
That's a
The
shitty
building
place.
still has, thank you very much.
No, I'm not
I
gonna hold it
appreciate your
back on
candor,
TV,
yes.
but
Yeah.
my father goes in, it's horrible for a senior center. I'm
Right.
not gonna
Thank
sit
you.
here and lie,
Thank
it's
you.
horrible.
Yes,
And we need a new one,
yes.
but we need a lot more brain power to put
Here
to
is
it.
Let's get that brain power.
Yes, here's my plea to you. This amount of money, if we had no income at all, nothing, is 0.38% of Wareham's total budget. We can find these funds somewhere, guys. We can do this. It's
I do
totally
so.
doable. I mean, I am 100% in belief that if we all looked at that budget, we could fund this.
I admire your enthusiasm.
That's gonna
I
be tough.
consider we've been, well,
That'll be tough.
we've gone through the budget meticulously because we see the very detail of every single department when we go through it in for our April recommendations. And I love your optimism. I've been through the budget for 7 years. Dominic's been through it for longer than that, and Tom has. And so I forgive our cynicism, and because we always all enjoy and we perhaps agree with your proposal,
Right.
but unfortunately, our history of going through the budget, when you say, oh, we can find it, we'd love to be able to find it, but we've been looking for several years, and what we come up with is a balanced budget that unfortunately doesn't fund everything that we want.
I think the really unfortunate thing is that people like Jonathan and I, who are young professionals in this community, buying homes, contributing, we're not going to attract more folks like that. We're going to send those folks away to towns that have amenities that support citizens, and we can't afford that. We can't afford to let those dollars slip through our fingers when we have an aging population and no one to come in with, you know, to pick up the place that they leave behind. Like, this town won't have something to offer folks like us.
One more comment, Trish?
Yeah, Bernie, I understand you can't squeeze blood out of an orange or whatever they say. Probably from an orange you could, but maybe not an apple.
Blood out of a rock.
That's out of a rock.
Nickels out of pennies.
And I've been in Wareham forever, but I've only lived here full-time since 2018. I've been in this town for 64 years. Living here full-time has given me a whole new lesson on
You're getting off
local
topic,
government.
Trish.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
What's happening in this town. They're putting up signs saying we're just selling our house, we can't do this anymore. To Leslie's point, and I ended up getting involved in running for a selectman like OMG, right, and want to live here. And right now, we're doing things that are actually chasing them away.
Look at the school, you're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Okay.
I'm not wrong. All I'm asking you is,
Look at Onset.
look at it again. Just please, look at it again. This is something that will bring people here, good citizens here, and it will take care of the citizens, the elder citizens.
What sort of a time frame are we talking about with this?
I mean, obviously, you can't snap your fingers and all of these rooms will be rented and it will all be, you know, tomorrow it'll be a community center. It will be
Right.
phased in. Whenever the school vacates in early 2022, I think immediately certain things could start taking place there, like the COA could set up an office there, they could start offering senior programs there. Nothing needs to happen other than moving some furniture around for that to occur. We could have a veteran services person come to an office there and provide services instead of, you know, I know they drive all around to the different communities. We could have that be one of their stops. We could have a disability services office there. That could all happen right away. That's very simple, very straightforward. Then these rental agreements are gonna happen in phases because people have leases they're already in. So that's why we need to get a jump on this, so that they can already start figuring that into their plans and we can have the town administrator starts signing people up for these spots, and obviously they'll be filled over time, but if you ask me, could we have something great in place by the end of 2022? Yes. Will we have everything filled and everything sorted out? No. But could we have a great base and have rentals already starting? Yes. By the end of 2022, yes.
So, for the start of this project, how much is the town gonna spend? If it's not gonna be rented out, and it might not be rented out until the end of the year, how much does the town need to put into?
It costs $100,000 to keep the building open with all the utilities. $70,000 is already approved through the end of next year's budget. It's already there. That one is
Only
already
till
there.
June.
Right.
Only
But that amount
that
is there.
70,000 could go a lot of different ways. It doesn't
Only
have-
till
it doesn't
June
have
is
to
it.
just there.
What I'm saying is it
Dedicated.
keeps the lights on until June, is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
yes.
So let's say that there was nothing, there were no rentals, there was nothing in place. So you're talking about $100,000 to keep the building open for 6 months, so $50,000 would be half of that. Could you reduce those costs because if it was empty? Sure. I mean, I can't give you an exact number. I don't think that's gonna happen.
We need to cover those costs anyhow.
Oh, yes, indeed, but
You know, for the
not if
full
there's
year,
anybody,
whether it's a half.
And in
if it's an empty
next
building,
year,
it's
we gotta
different.
cover
In fact, those
so-
costs would go up if you had security to make sure that vandalism wasn't happening at that property. I mean, costs go up sometimes when you have to keep a building sitting there empty.
there's one issue I have too with this. The committee is comprised of 7 citizens, initially comprised the first 7 names. I'm not sure what Clara say about that, but I don't think the town meeting can appoint. They're a legislative body, I don't believe they can appoint.
So Mr. Bowen's take on the committee was that the language was legal. I am not going to be a stickler about this committee. I want to see the project go forward.
Well,
I'll
typically
take amendments, we'll propose an amendment.
We're arbitrarily
I'll help you.
taking those 7 people.
Thank you, I
Yeah,
appreciate
and,
it.
My
Thank you.
numbers are
These
there.
people aren't
I will
vetted or
contact
anything, we
you.
don't know who
Pretty
they
good
are.
at numbers.
It's inappropriate.
I love it.
It's just inappropriate, we're appointing 7 people, we don't know who they are, they
They're
haven't been vetted
listed,
at all.
they're listed in the
I understand who
document.
they are, but they have not been interviewed. Typically, we do interviews.
Well,
All of us have been
that,
interviewed.
that is not across the board for all the committees. We would be happy to be interviewed, but this is not my hill to die on. I don't care who's on the committee, as long as they're a booster for making this project go forward.
Can I just say one quick thing, and I
Go ahead.
promise? This is just numbers, when I get involved with the council on aging, you know, I've heard numbers thrown around. 33.7 of the residents in Wareham are considered seniors. I've heard numbers all the way down into the 20s, but in 12.2 are school age kids.
Right, right.
I don't remember when I brought those numbers forward. I'm sure it's changed some since the census came out.
Probably more, yeah.
It could very well be. I can't sit here and say, but
Right.
there are a lot of seniors in this town. Nobody's disputing that, and I think it's very sad that Wareham doesn't have a full-time director of.
You're gonna put that in your budget for next year when you start working. You'll have to find that somewhere.
And I'm not gonna argue with you. I mean, they had somebody put in before
Right, we
COVID
did
hit.
last year, yeah.
You know, it kind of following up on that, when the article went up and there was a gentleman that really did all the
Yeah.
legwork to get in front of town meeting, he was awesome. It got voted down.
Yeah.
It didn't get recommended by the selectmen, I came in front of the finance
Right.
committee, it didn't get recommended here, and it got voted down. But I think it was the following year that the town did put money in. for
Right,
full
I believe
time.
there's 40,000
So
in
sometimes
this year.
the first swing at the plate doesn't always work, but you gotta keep putting up the good fight. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, I really appreciate the time and the input. It's very valuable, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will contact you.
The next article is Article 1, which is the capital plan. They met at, I think around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Our representative was there. What are they proposing, David? Do it, please.
Let's see. As people may know, the capital plan, there's a 5-year capital plan that's put together and modified as time goes on every year. And that comes from the department heads of each department in town, looks and comes up with their priorities. They present them to the capital planning committee. Capital planning committee interrogates the department heads, and typically we ask for what the backup is, why they need them, what they're doing with it, and we've had a pretty good response from them. So we do have a 5-year plan of what's required. Unfortunately, we can't afford everything that's on the 5-year plan. And so everything does not get funded. The funding, again, we try to find it. We've just talked about that. Where do you come up with the money? Derek goes through, he has an overview of what is required through each department, and using available funds, which can be, in this case, we use our free cash. Typically, just like anyone individual, you don't plan on spending all your income all the time. I think in towns, we're sort of encouraged to spend less than 90%. So there is a little bit of a budget because we're not quite sure how much we're getting in. We're not on a salary, the town is not on a salary that they establish each year. So they try to leave a little bit left over. So this year, we're looking at, in the police department, for replacing guns, ammunition, lasers and so on, tasers and so on, we're talking about $55,000. In the radios, we've been upgrading the radio system for the last, I think it's 4 years. It's an upgrade that has been done by the town, the fire department in Wareham, and the fire department in Onset. They've all contributed to that. We're looking at contributing $50,000 this year for that, and that, I believe, is the last payment we'll be making. In addition, the police are looking for a new unmarked vehicle, and we're allocating $40,000 for that. In the schools, the high school fire alarm system needs to be redone. It has problems, it's antiquated. We're looking at $260,000. It's a safety issue to have the fire alarm system in the high school renovated. School buses, as you probably know, between a lack of buses and a lack of drivers, we've had issues where we can't even take all our students and bring them to school every day. There's still a problem with that. We're looking at 3 new buses, and the prices a year or so ago were about $90,000 a bus. Right now they're about $110,000.
I thought it was 4.
We're looking at 3. We probably
was
would like
4
4.
buses.
It was 4.
Well, when school came, they said 4, so they
Yes.
reduced it to 3.
They reduced it.
Well, we're back to the same, we paid $110,000 each.
110,000 each, so
That
it's
would be 440.
it's 300.
I just made
Right.
sure that,
Yep,
that's all.
it's 330,000.
I was always concerned, excuse me, David,
Mm-hmm.
they're buying buses,
Yes,
and yet they always complain that they don't have the ability to transport either 1 or 2 people if they have to go out of district,
yes,
and they have to do that with the sped people especially.
right.
Why don't they buy a couple vans or something on occasion?
Well,
Um,
I can see that line item listed here,
I
that
think
they
they
want
did.
4 vans,
But
but
they,
we
yeah,
originally thought 400,000, why not take 70,000 and do 2 vans too?
That's a good question.
well, that's another question for another day.
Yes. No, that's a very good question. But this is what the allocation is right now. Municipal maintenance is looking at two trucks for $180,000. We have MS4 drainage, which is requirements from the feds that we look at our storm drainage systems, not only to, well, there's a big study that you have to do to look at what you have for your storm drainage, where it goes, and it's It's a combination of looking as rain comes down, it lands on the roads, it goes down in the sewers, not sewers, but drainage, or it drains off the roads, and you have to follow it all the way.
Ends up in Marion, Mattapoisett, and Rochester.
And they should be thanking us.
Wait a minute.
Recharges their water table.
No, but you're talking about problems that they've had over there.
I know.
They're boiling all their water
I
right
know,
now.
that's what I just said.
In
It
those
gets
4
boiled over
towns,
there.
right. But it ends up in the rivers, it ends up in Buzzards Bay, it ends up in all these places. But you have to study it, and then you have to make modifications to control that. So we're looking at $100,000 in the MS4 drainage systems.
Yeah, you're required to review and repair 25% of your stormwater drains every year, which is a huge number.
It was about 2-3 years ago we passed the article accepting that because the feds required it.
We had no choice.
We didn't have any choice.
Yeah, that's why I say the feds required us.
Right, it was an unfunded mandate.
Well, we had to go ahead and buy, that special truck to get into clean them out and everything.
Yes. Right.
I think we got like 2,500 or.
We got a lot of roads.
Well, we got 54
We're
miles.
87 miles worth of road.
Yeah,
And they're all collapsing too, a lot of them.
yes. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah, it is.
We had talked about modifications to the auditorium, redoing the ceiling in the auditorium in this building, and also painting in there. We're looking at $40,000 capital for that.
They're gonna repair the projectors?
Not with that cost,
Are they
not
still
with that
there?
price.
The old film projectors, I wonder if they're still in the box.
It's still there.
Yep. And then
You
let's
know
see.
how to operate them.
I do, unfortunately.
Yep.
It's embarrassing.
And we're looking at leasing a new ambulance and a 3-year lease for $110,000 a year over the next 3 years.
We buy that out at a small dollar amount at the end of the 3 years, right?
Yes,
Yeah. It's a capital lease. Just so you know.
Yeah, like we do with police cars.
Yes,
right.
Same deal.
How much was that then?
That was $110,000 a year. Let's see. There's, in the Department of Natural Resources, we're looking at a survey of the Onset Pier. We've received some funding on that, and I believe, let's see if I've got the figure here.
225.
225,000, I believe that's the balance. At this point, I think it was 450,000 originally.
Oh, that's for paying off?
Yes.
Bernie, can I ask David a question?
Yeah, that'll be the 3rd year. Yes,
Can I ask David a question?
certainly.
Dave, going back to EMS,
Yes.
okay. It's a 3-year lease at $110,000. Yet, underneath, you say new ambulance is $300,000. So, basically, you wanna pay at least 10% for $100,000. I mean, you could buy the ambulance for $300,000 and pay less than 10% on the money. I mean, 10% is a high figure for money. And at $110,000, you're paying $10,000 if the ambulance only costs you $300,000.
It might also include equipment that has to add to the.
Fully
ambulance.
equipped,
Say it again?
fully equipped.
You have to,
Well, isn't
But
that what
still.
this number is, new ambulance, 300,000?
That's just the ambulance itself.
So it's more than 300,000.
When you outfit it, the capital item is like $300,000.
fully outfitting it.
No, you have to outfit these things, they don't come complete.
What I'm saying though is I'm looking at these line items here.
You have to ask Derek or
Well, I was-
EMS, is that 110,000 a year lease, does that include equipment that the lease company puts in there for you as part of the purchase?
Okay,
price?
because that's 122. You get on to 125, it says new ambulance, and then you go to the number, it says 300,000. I don't know if it's fully equipped or not. I was just doing the numbers as, 3
Yeah.
years at 110, that's 330,000.
Yeah,
That's 30,000, yeah.
That's the projection for that year,
Okay,
which is
all
a
right.
speculation for but you're right, if we're paying
I just-
110.
I was just mentioning that I thought there was a high interest rate, a high rate on 100,000. I could be wrong because of equipment and stuff. I just mentioned it.
Just
Yeah.
ask the question.
Nope, it's a good question. Good question. Pardon? Let's see, and then, so that's coming from free cash, and that's, if it added up correctly, it's 1.4, $1,410,000. In addition, we're gonna be replacing the parking kiosks, 10 parking kiosks in Onset. And that's 110,000.
Dave, don't we have money from the parking now to use for that?
Yes, we do,
Okay.
and that's
so-
where it's coming from.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
Yes.
right, separate.
okay.
So
That's
that-
what I thought, yeah.
There you
The
go.
other
All
part,
right.
right.
So that's not, okay, that's not coming from free cash.
No, that's not, that's not. Let's see. What else do we have here? Stormwater,
Anything from WPCF?
let's see.
I don't think so. My golly.
I'm not seeing anything like
Yeah, there's no highlights in it. That's unusual.
No,
But next year they want 9 million.
now WPCF, there are a number of items. Those will be funded by WPCF. They will not be coming out of the town budget.
Yeah, they're not requesting anything.
Not requesting any money,
Has to go
any
through-
appropriations.
Yeah, they still have to go through
From
town
that.
meeting. Yeah.
So, I believe that's
I think that's it.
it.
Let's see, kiosk, Johnson Pair survey. Yep, I think that's it, David.
I believe so.
Do you have an extra copy? I have one here, and I like something that,
Yeah,
Yes.
don't mind the scribble.
no, go ahead. I'm more case, I'm using it to,
I-
when I run it through the printer,
Oh, okay,
I'll
yeah.
insert the whole thing.
Yep.
You verbally said 265 for the fire alarm system, but it's got 280 listed here.
I'm sorry?
You verbally said 265 for the fire alarm system for the high school, but you got 280 listed here. So 265.
280, yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, it says 280 for the fire.
It says 280. Did I'm sorry, did I say,
260?
Because I remember when they were here, they said 265, and I think that's what he repeated.
I'm sorry, I copied it down wrong, incorrectly.
The 280?
It's 280.
It's 280.
I'm sorry.
So it is that, okay.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Good eyes.
Yep.
Comments?
Well, yes, Jody.
You know, it's not a newsflash when town meeting's coming up, and to get this, when we have to vote on it tonight, these two trucks, I'm not picking on the maintenance, I'm sure they need them. Are they trading trucks in? How many miles are on them? How bad are they? I mean, what's the history of these two trucks they're replacing? I mean, the police, I heard the whole tasers and weapons and et cetera, et cetera. Well, how many are they buying? Is it one taser, one firearm? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's fair to us that we get this tonight. And, you know, I think the question Dominic brought up with the ambulance is a very good question. I mean, I'd like somebody to be sitting here to answer, because we're supposed to vote on this tonight.
And it's appropriate you're
Right.
sitting next to Tom.
I'm trying to be, did
No,
I take your thunder, Tom? I'm sorry.
no.
Being,
No, but, you know,
being all quiet tonight, I'm worried that the shit's gonna hit the fan soon, I'm
No,
worried
that's
about
it.
Tom.
It's falling. I mean, we have really no choice, because we are compelled by charter.
We're paying for this with the sand and gravel revenue.
I don't want Tommy, I don't want Tommy.
Tommy, I'm going to personally say, by letter even, to the selectmen, I am just very disappointed at this process. The finance committee is expected to make recommendations, and they're not giving the time nor the information to do so. There's no reason the capital planning committee couldn't meet 2 weeks ago. Nothing has changed.
yeah, that's what I said. It's not a newsflash when town meeting's coming up, and when these things need to be done by.
think we need to
And,
strike
you know,
it.
and I'm sure that, I don't wanna speak for the selectmen, but they'd probably like to know,
Yes.
they did their meeting last night.
I don't see that.
The
The
town manager gets together with the department heads and then they
decide what they're gonna do, and we're just like
No, no,
head
But-
shakers.
when the presentation is made to the capital planning committee, in most cases, there is a document that each town managers are presenting, which outlines what's required and why, as well as what they're doing with the old one. I don't have that information.
I mean, I hate to bring up a sore subject,
No,
but it was brought up, there is a form out there, and I'm gonna pick on these 2 trucks, that this information is supposed to be made out
It is.
and brought forward. I mean, I think Tom kind of beat it to death
it is.
a couple meetings
right.
ago.
Now,
But he made very valid points, and I
did.
agree with him.
He did,
I
he did.
agree.
I'll be quiet now.
Now, we have to make a choice. If you want, if we could really go out on a limb here, we'd be out on a limb, don't recommend anything. Because we didn't have sufficient information prior to having to go to print.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have a problem doing that, but
I do.
then that's fine. But do have a lot of faith in the town administrator, what he brings forward and stuff, and he does his work. But I would like to see, you know, the chief here telling us that he's buying this many tasers, this many this, and why. I mean, do the tasers wear out? I have no idea. What's the life expectancy of a taser? I know there's life expectancy.
Alan wants to jump in here.
Maturity and
Huh?
training. too,
Alan
is
wants to
be
jump
able
in.
Go through that too.
Jump in, Alan.
I'm gonna get the one herd out of the whole herd here. The way it's set up, and it's been set up since 2008, because I started it, there is a form for all the different department heads. If they're buying a piece of capital equipment, they have to, in the back of the form, if the piece is replacing something, what are they doing with the other piece of equipment, the old one? Are they trading it in, or are they gonna sell it off as surplus? As far as the police, if they're gonna get tasers, they'll list right on there how many tasers they want. So the only way you're gonna get it is if David borrows the book that I guess maybe Jimmy has and everybody has a copy. And this is done at hearings for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, when all the different department heads come in and talk about it. So it's public record as well. But all I'm saying is they do have a form, and that's how it works. So
I know.
it's not guessing.
Alan, but what Bernie said is, they met today,
No, they met on this stuff months before.
but the final decision was made
The
today.
final decision.
They had to wait for the town administrator, who had the list, to make his decision, what he was gonna put through for capital plan.
Okay.
You have to remember, you know, I remember one year I had a list of like $95 million for the town overall, which, you know, scared the crap out of everybody.
Of course.
You know, because we'll never get $95 million for anything. So they can come up and say, we need $13 million this year, as an example, everybody's list. The town administrator then decides, out of that list, which ones he's gonna do. And if he's gonna do it through free cash, he has to wait till he has what the free cash is, which we haven't got yet.
Yeah.
We have an estimate, we think, but we haven't got it yet.
We still haven't got the free cash.
So,
Not been
so
certified.
the capital
Right.
planning committee, what their job is to list each department what they need this year, going forward 5 years. The other thing that we don't really do well, which I'm not sure how we'll do it, well, we should, is plan how we're gonna pay for this over 5 or 10 years. Because right now, the amount of money we're paying back on bonds, interest, is extremely low. You know, and the way you should do it is, say you have $20 million you're gonna commit to capital on a yearly basis. So every year you make sure you buy enough stuff to borrow to keep that at $20 million every year. And that's how it works smoothly. It's like buses. You replace 3 or 4 buses every year, and you have like a 10-year plan, and you always have new buses in place. When a bus hits 4 or 5 years old, or 6 years old, you're trading it and moving on. It's a simple process, but we've never really pushed and take responsibility. A little bit because I started this and never finished doing the other piece, which is to sit there and come up with a report at town meeting saying how we're gonna finance this over the next 5 years.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Alan. Our bond rating's AAA.
No, double A
Double
plus.
A, double A plus.
It's the next level is triple.
But the money on the bonds is so low right now,
And we will because of our rating.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, that's
We
why.
we would be crazy not to borrow
What
money.
are they talking about? John Foster talks about, set a dollar amount, what you wanna have for your debt, as long as you can pay it on a yearly basis. You can go buy, we can buy all we want.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that.
I think
We
DOR
know
represents
we
a certain
can pay on
percentage.
bonds and borrow. With the rate so low, you get a big bang for your buck.
We know that. And you
Oh, but don't forget,
We know what's doing it now.
Well, we did it for the school,
We did it for the school.
and
well, the school is outside on a 2.5, but if we can borrow internally,
Yes.
Right.
but we have to make the payments on that borrowing.
right.
So that payment money has to come from someplace
And we have,
within the
we have a
budget.
pretty good opening right now to borrow money and pay.
Yeah.
But that's the next step for the capital planning committee to do that piece. And that's
Speaking
not
of the
easy.
capital planning, I'll entertain a motion to express our displeasure to the capital planning committee that we should have the finance committee should have the information at a minimum 2 weeks before it has to go to print. So we can have a reasonable time to make a decision as to recommendations.
You have to send a note to the town administrator because he's the one that holds.
Yeah, I know. He's one of the members. Yep.
It's not capital planning.
Anybody want to make that motion? I entertain a motion. I can't make it, I'm chair.
If David makes the motion, you'll probably get hurt the next time he shows up.
All right, Bernie, just for giggles, I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Move on.
Can I have a second? Anyone want a second?
What,
Just to express our displeasure that, our disappointment.
see,
I'll
just
second it.
speaking for myself, is when it comes time to make a recommendation, I'm just voting no. And let it go into the book that the finance committee voted no, and if we're asked
Okay.
why, for lack of information.
Jody,
Dominic, withdraw your motion, and we'll go with that. Okay,
withdraw the
done.
motion. But Al said that information is available to us.
Now, I got a
We
note-
didn't have anyone within our group get that information. So if it's available, shame on us for not getting it.
I did get it, and I did not transfer all that information to you.
But David, you should have had a copy of those forms.
So,
They should have,
Like all
they
the
should have given you a
changes, all
copy of
that
the
kind of
forms.
stuff.
But
You're the
that,
finance
that,
committee
that
representative.
form they're speaking of, I would like to have that form in my hand to be able to look at it. I'd like to get it a couple days before this meeting, the form that was discussed.
Well, I'll call Derek tomorrow and ask him for those
They're
forms.
only doing the high.
Yeah, well,
They're only
a
doing
picture of
the
what the hell that they
That's
buy,
right.
what it
So
tastes,
let's say
looks
today
like,
when they go
I mean, the
to
whole deal.
pay the 55.
Yeah, you
This is,
the
So now I have the
Sandy, Jimmy.
55,000 right now.
pardon?
The Sandy get
You know
those
what I
from
mean?
Jimmy.
Because it's not.
Sandy
voted,
gets
it's
some,
not-
actually, I gave Sandy some of mine, because she missed the meeting.
They did vote on it today,
When
yes,
will the
but now
Sandy
we're
fill up?
working
So-
to go back and.
All right, Mr. Chairman, let's go.
Okay.
Kind of in my sleep time.
All right. On Article 1, motion to approve,
Wait, can you do me a big favor?
certainly.
Read the motion.
On Article 1, the motion will be to appropriate or transfer from free cash $1,410,000 to satisfy the requirements of the capital plan, which is $50K for guns and ammo, et cetera, for police, radios $50K, unmarked cruiser $40K for the schools, high school fire alarm at $280K, 3 buses at $330K, municipal maintenance with 2 trucks at $180K, a MS storm drains at $100K, and paint the town hall auditorium at $40K, ambulance 3-year lease at $110K, and natural resources, the survey of the pier at $225K, total of $1,410,000
Coming from free cash.
coming from
Coming
free
from
cash.
free cash.
May I have a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, I'll call the roll. Dominic?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Ernie? Yes. David?
Yes.
Jody?
No.
Tom?
Yes.
We're not gonna plow.
5-1.
Jody's house anymore.
0.
Yeah, plow it anyways, doesn't matter.
We're gonna plow it into your
What is
house.
your
Oh, we're doing it.
Vote the way you feel.
What was it, 5-1?
5-1-0.
Yes, that makes sense.
Certainly.
Next on the agenda, Article 16.
You do know that Judy had us come back and vote on the
Yes.
article about the.
Yeah, I have it, I have the
having
new,
ability to stop articles from going into the warrant.
Mhm.
She reversed her vote.
Yep, Article 16.
That's why it's, yeah.
In fact, I
Jim and I
realized
walked down
that
there and
better.
I thought I,
That was done wrong.
No kidding.
Should have been under, reconsider.
I did.
Article 16 is the submission of
Oh, Sandy.
the current
Sandy said
procedure of
fire.
submitting articles.
What?
The selectmen voted 2-3-0. They voted not to recommend. May I have a motion to recommend?
I'll have to let them know.
We have a positive motion.
So the.
Motion to recommend.
Motion's made, may I have a second?
Just goes.
second.
Vote's made and seconded, any discussion? There being none, I'll call the roll. Dom?
No.
Matt?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Bernie, yes.
Sandy-
5-1-0.
Sandy just called me and said you did the guns for the police, the wrong number, it's 55,000.
That's what he said.
She said it was 50 when she, on the TV.
That's what I wrote down.
No, 55.
That's what she heard on the TV. She
Probably
said-
had that orange tabby going across the screen or something.
It says 55 in here.
I had
I know it
55.
says that, but
Oh.
when you.
Oh,
the
we said
verbal part,
50, I
you may have-
see.
When I,
Oh,
You may have
oh,
said 50 by accident, that's all.
So,
I'm sorry.
You know, she's never wrong.
All right.
Remember that.
No, you have to remember that.
happy wife, happy life.
This is being broadcast, so I'm.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, well.
I'm going to the garage tonight again.
that's okay. Next one, Article 17, which changed the makeup and manner of selection of the redevelopment authority. The selectmen voted no, not to recommend, 1-4-0.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? There being none, Dominic,
Yes.
Matt,
No.
David,
No.
Jody,
No.
Tom,
Yes.
4-2-0? No.
Bernie is no.
2-4.
2-4.
2-4.
Article 18, collection of fees and penalties. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Make motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
We had quite a discussion on it, and
Indeed.
I think the concept is good. I think we've got an issue with, several people pointed out that it's specific to a particular company, which is
Yeah, that's,
not really the way it should be.
So we have a motion and second?
Yeah.
okay. Any further discussion? There being none, Dominic,
No as written.
Matt,
No.
David,
No, as written.
Jody,
No.
Tom,
No.
Bernie, no.
One thing that might come out of this is, again, having some means of having a citizen's petition be reviewed by town council to,
We can't do that, but you have to come up with something. I mentioned it before, that it's not fair. I'll leave it at that. I really think it's unfair.
David, I think the best thing come about it is awareness right now.
Yeah.
Now people are
Yeah.
aware of what's going on. Before, I wasn't aware,
right.
but now we're all aware of it. We'll move on and
I'm hoping that even if this gets turned down, that the selectmen will take
it's
action.
aware, it's been brought up as
As
awareness.
Jimmy indicates, there's
Jimmy's on
going
top
on
of it
behind
right
the
now.
scenes.
Yeah, no,
It's
Jim-
unfortunate.
Jim's been assigned to it.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Jimmy's on top of it, I
Yes.
know he is.
What's difficult is oftentimes there's things going on in the background that citizens and even ourselves don't know, and we get all up in arms about it and everything, and we find out, oh geez, they're doing it.
Right.
Okay. Article 19, the Zoom meeting. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, Dominic? How do you vote?
Thinking.
No, I smell wood
You want a
burning.
coin? Anybody got a coin?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Matt?
No. At this time.
David?
No.
Thank you, that's what I want to say at this time.
Jody?
No.
Yes.
Bernie is no. 510.
I can't believe it.
No,
150.
150.
150, thank you.
I want to see what the state's gonna say first.
And the last one, repurpose the John Degas. May I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? I think there's they have an interesting concept,
It's an amazing concept.
but unfortunately, from my finance perspective, it's just not possible. Any further discussion? There being none, Dominic?
You know what, Bernie, I'm gonna buck the tide, I'm gonna say yes.
Matt?
I'm gonna say no. I love the idea,
David?
That's why I voted.
I like the idea.
but I just can't.
I know the
see
numbers are
getting
gonna
it
fail,
done.
but I had to say yes.
I can't see getting it done.
I'll abstain.
Well, I mean, my old man goes over there and, you know.
I don't
Jody?
care, but the town hasn't got a record of doing anything on any of these things.
Tom?
And I'm against it.
You don't think we can do better than we did it?
Huh? We haven't done it
Tremont
the Everett
nails?
School, for Christ's sake. They Tremont nails, those things aren't happening, guys.
Well,
They
Tremont
don't
nails
get
come a
done.
long, Tommy, Tremont nails come a long way. I
Come a
agree with
long
you,
way.
it was a dead
long
horse.
way, in 10 years?
One.
Come on.
Okay, the number is one, I voted no. 141. One yes, one abstention.
I mean, that is a big building over there, a lot of space, and we don't know who might be interested in how to use it.
Okay, gentlemen, moving on. The next need is,
Never happened.
the warrant is almost complete, with the exception of the 5 articles, the 6 articles that we reviewed this evening, or we just voted on. I would ask for volunteers to write the committee's recommendation.
Yeah, I thought you got all those volunteers last week.
Where's
Well, that was
Bailey
the other
when you
ones
need him?
that we already did, and unfortunately, I had to write the ones Jerry had because of his preoccupation with his oil leak.
Where's Bailey when you need him?
Okay, Article 1, which is the capital plan.
I'll write that.
Somehow I was hoping you would volunteer. Okay, the warrant article is Article 16 for the current procedure for citizens petition. We approve that 5-1-0.
When do you need these by? I know the book's gotta get to the printer real quick.
Well, it's gonna have to go to Staples. The only-
Well, I'm not just, I don't
I
care
know,
where you
but
go.
I was hoping to get it
How quick
done
do you,
yesterday afternoon, but I don't think we can get this written in there.
what do you would say, by the weekend?
I would rather have it by Friday morning. It's Wednesday, you know, all the-
They have tomorrow to write it.
Vernon,
Yes,
on 16, I would just like to write something because I'm the no.
okay.
I'm not gonna write the whole thing, I'm just gonna write why I said no. Okay?
Okay, 17, which is
So you still need someone to vote, to write the,
the approval.
yeah.
You write your no and...
both sides of it.
I gotta write both sides?
You do.
How can I write both sides if I'm against it?
Sure you
Well,
can.
because you didn't understand, you went against it, you didn't understand what the
Because-
people going.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right,
You
all
didn't
right, all right,
understand
all
both
right, all
sides of the issue.
Dominic, you're such a magnanimous gentleman.
Huh? Son of a gun.
I'll do both. Thank you, Al.
It's like being up the Cape, you know, you
Okay.
break those things up.
Yes.
But I think Dominic has fell prey to us, but if you choose to write both views in your recommendation. So Article 17, the matter of the selection of the redevelopment authority. Volunteers, come on, gentlemen, please. And you can write both pro and con.
Well, I'll volunteer for 18 because I was only against it. There we go.
You gotta do both sides.
There isn't both sides, there's only one side.
Oh, okay.
If there are some negatives, though, I would appreciate if you let them in, because it is a citizen politician.
Everybody vote no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, back to 17. Or let's put it this way, there's Zoom and there's the Teague issue. Is it anything in particular you'd rather volunteer for? David's got one, Dominic's got one, Jody has one.
Take the Deaconess.
Okay.
That's gonna be
The Zoom one,
Now,
it should come back at the Springtown meeting.
okay,
We know what's going on.
I agree with you.
Yeah. But it's fine, the State House is still doing everything by Zoom, so they're in no hurry to
I'll do the
change
Zoom
anything.
19.
19.
Yeah, but it'll come in the spring.
Yeah, oh, yeah, they have to sometime.
Okay, the last one we have, and looks like we're gonna have to double up unless Tom wants to take the makeup of the WRA.
I don't even understand that.
Okay.
I didn't understand what she was talking about. I don't know what the committee is.
Redevelopment Authority.
Redevelopment Authority, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanna make the change, the selection of it, the people who are on it.
Go to 5 people,
You know,
3.
it's funny, you brought up something last night when they were debating about it. You can't attend the meetings.
Well, you can attend, but I can't enter into discussion because it would
You can't even be
become
visible.
Yeah, you can. You can be physically there, but,
You can't speak.
Conflict of interest.
Why bother getting up?
well,
It's a
if
quorum.
you have 3
It's a quorum.
people, yeah,
Oh, the
quorum.
quorum,
Two
that's right.
selectmen are members. There's a way you can get around that too, though, because
You have to leave the room?
you can't do that.
I just want to say, I'm doing this project for the WRA, and I like all the people in it. Derek's part of it, Judith's part of it,
Yeah.
Ken's part of it, Peter's part of it. What I'm looking at as I'm doing my project is if the WRA says they have the money, they want to go forward with the project, they have no one there who has the bandwidth to be able to make that happen. So, I don't know how they wrote the proposed article, but seriously, if that group is going to be successful at contributing to what happens with this town, it needs bodies in there that can also do work.
That's my basic problem with it. Now, Peter wrote it up, and so it's got a lot of self-interest in there. But I think the committee itself, very well-intentioned, they're doing the best they can, but they don't have those resources that is absolutely necessary to do a more complete job.
You need an executive director with a
Yeah.
redevelopment authority. That's number
You know, another thing.
And my unfortunate part, too, that all these say it's either Ken and/or Derek.
Yeah.
They got enough to do.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
They shouldn't be there.
I mean, part of the article was written, for the people being appointed by the selectmen. My issue is with the 4 that were gonna get elected.
Or did I just pass?
Rather get a little,
Yeah,
that makes them happy, because I said it's a popularity contest. I want you to know what it is. Elected officials, whether you like it or not, it's a popularity contest again.
And when they bring, if the WRA has an issue, has to go before the selectmen to get approved, to get on the warrant,
Try to stay organized.
then 2 people on the selectmen already approved it.
Yeah, they should abstain, but that's beside.
They should abstain. Because now all they need is one person to agree with them, and whatever they want to do is done. And that's not a fair review for the town, from the town's perspective. Anyway.
My assistant FinCom member reminded me last night, because I came from another town involved in these things, that she said, don't you remember when we had all these real estate people on the committee, they serve their own self-interest.
They do, that's why you,
So you have to be careful, and I said, you know, I said, oh, then I could name all the people that were on there. I kind of forgot all about it, you know, but she says, yeah, it was
Yeah.
made up of real estate people.
well, EDIC way back was the same thing.
Oh, I can't say what happened way back, I can't tell you where I came from way back, but,
It was a common problem.
Well, that's
Yeah.
not too bad.
Okay, I'll write that one too.
This is,
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, can I just,
Wait a minute.
one more quick thing.
Yes.
on the,
You know, this might interest Matt, you guys, I assume got the thing about the finance committee, podcast they're gonna do the 25th, 26th.
This is just
Yeah.
change the quorum.
The FinCom,
Oh,
this is the one. with
State.
the state podcast, they do for FinCom members.
Oh,
It's coming up, I know Matt might be interested
To see if
if
the
you got the
town
link to
will
that
vote.
or not, I registered for it.
Spring or fall town meeting.
Yeah,
That's different than this, though.
You need to.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
different than that one. This is,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I don't think,
Oh, I'm
I
done.
don't have anything.
you're talking about the, yeah, you're talking about the ATM, Association of Town Finance Committees.
yeah,
That's all
Yeah.
right.
I'm on the board of directors.
Yeah, I don't have an.
yeah, that's coming up, I want.
I didn't know what he was talking
This
about.
was, yeah, this was that.
Yeah, I
one.
kinda lost my train of
Kinda-
thought, oh, I hate to say that.
He didn't
But,
send me this.
I'm on the board.
But I'm just trying to tell people, Matt might
If he
be
sent it to me,
interested
I have.
in registering for that. If he needs a link, I can send it to him.
Matt, beginning of, thank you, Trish.
Yep, thank you.
Nice seeing you.
Thank you for your input.
Nice to meet you all that I haven't met yet, and thank you.
thank you.
The Association of Town Finance Committees as an organization, and they're currently running, when is it again?
I wanna say 25th.
Yes.
Is there three?
Three
They're
nights.
running- they're running,
It's only an hour and a
webinars.
half, I believe.
Yeah, webinars.
It's not long.
And you may be interested in joining in. They have some very good people there.
When is this, Bernie?
Pardon?
Starts the 25th. They
Yeah,
runs like three Wednesday nights, I believe.
Yeah, I keep,
Where is it, Jody?
It's
It's-
it's iPod, it's on your
it's a
computer.
Zoom.
It's a Zoom meeting.
Zoom?
Yeah.
Sounds
I've
me
sent it
out.
out. I've been,
Yeah, send your
Take it on
information
our
out.
Zoom.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very informative,
keep
you know.
it
Can you send me the
Right now,
information on that?
Zoom meetings. 'Cause they're
I'm
Wednesday
telling
nights.
you, ask Jimmy, I got so much trouble. Computer stupid.
No, buy something that works. Says
I have a nice
You know,
computer
they
system.
stopped making Commodores a long time
No,
ago.
no,
so-
no. Listen, I use a flip phone, but
It's probably
unless
got-
my girl is in the shop, I'm dead in the, when it comes to computers, I'm dead in the water.
if your
Go
girl's
off,
in
my
the
first
shop.
computer was a Commodore 128.
Actually, an Atari features 64.
Yeah, Commodore 128.
You have a copy
The
of
dot
the
matrix
16
printer.
I could
The
have?
pi-
Oh, yes.
Step one more back to you.
All the green
You
stripes.
can send it to me.
You want Sandy
I
to come?
can, no, I know I'll give it, you'll have it right here.
Thank you.
So 21st, 28th, and November 4th,
I can give him the page from you.
7 to 8:15.
Yeah, yeah, it's,
Could you send me a copy of that, Tom?
You should have gotten one from.
I know. I
I'll
probably
email you.
did, but
okay.
This is my only copy.
I will.
Okay.
thank you.
Great, you,
Email
you,
to
you
the
said,
shop. Does it have in there when we voted on it before, was it 2019? Yes, I know that. Just email me the warrant.
Okay,
Thank you.
like I said, make it easy on you, Bree. You guys set up as a group, just send it out to everybody. I mean, I have it, and I'm,
Yes.
you know, but just send it out as a group. You can delete it.
You all
if you
said,
don't
Bernie,
need
motion to adjourn?
it. Second,
motion's made and seconded.
So
All those
moved.
Just have it, David.
Thank you.
See you guys. I'm starving.
Okay, Tom.